This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Oh yes, let us pick up these mics and get on with this thing. On this, the 230th episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast, where we're going to talk about jamming styles versus designer intent. And of course, go to the social media depository to talk about some stuff and get into a little podcast roundup. Before all of that, though, my name is Chris.
And I'm Phil.
And I'm Old Man Logan.
Old Man Logan in the house. Phil Vecchione in the house. What is going on in the house of M?
Me?
Nice. And not the comic book reference.
No. Why not?
Why not?
What is going on?
Fil.
Yeah.
What's
up?
That's what I said.
Well, I
asked you.
Yeah, no. I had kind of a work week last week, right? I mean, it was actually awful when I got on the mics last week. It didn't really do anything to improve. But I had the kids by myself for the weekend, and I had a blast. I had a lot of fun, just me and the kids. And we did a lot of cool stuff.
Waffle weekend.
Hashtag
Many
waffle
much
weekend. Oh, yeah. Well, I tried a couple. Well, all right. So I went back and did the tried and true. I did the tater tot waffle to make hash browns. That just works.
Absolutely.
But then the other thing, I had some chili in the. I had some chili in the fridge, so I went ahead and made. I made some cornbread waffles using cornbread muffin mix.
Oh, that's cool.
So I made some cornbread waffles and put one down and put the chili right on top of it.
Oh, I saw the pictures. They're great. They're on Twitter if you're looking for them.
They're on Twitter. So anyway, that totally worked.
At DNA Phil.
Yes.
DNAPHIL.
Just one L.
I said one L.
I know. I'm just saying that's like the only part you can screw up from that. It's just DNA Phil, one L. And then I on Sunday morning made actual just regular waffles. And I made like a big ass stack. I think I put it on Twitter. It was like 10 waffles high.
It was a lot of waffles.
Yeah. It was good times. So, I mean, it was fun. And I had a really nice weekend. Did a little recording. So we, did Pandas Talking Games. And Sunday I also recorded a little, just a little thing to go at the end of SassGeek this week. So yeah, that stuff was good. And I had to deal with a blown out tire this morning. Florence came home and blew out the tire on my car because she borrowed my car for the weekend.
That's why the cars were in the driveway, I was wondering.
Right. So then she took the tire in to be fixed and they never called her back. And then the donut went flat. So I was on my way home from therapy and I'm like, yeah, great. Sure, I'll deal with this. Like, I'm kind of a wreck coming out of therapy, but yeah, let me go to the tire place, get a tire, come home, put it on in the rain. And yeah,
it's always fun, right?
Yeah, it was a quite.
It's not fun.
It's quite an enjoyable.
There's nothing fun about it.
No, luckily I had a lot of shitty cars when I was younger, so changing tires is not anything new to me. Like, I'm really okay with. Like, I'm good. Like, it's not a huge process. Like, I got it done. Anyway, it sucked, and doing it in the rain, and it's not the first time I've done it in the rain, so yeah, sucked. Anyway, I want to mention before I kick it over to Bob or to Phil, I got a
Chris.
Yeah, you.
It's cool.
Other less organized Phil.
I resemble that remark.
Yes. Before I kick it over to either one of you, I want to thank someone on the mics, and because I'm fairly sure that person is in the chat room.
He is, in fact. If that's what you're talking about.
It is. I got a package today in the mail, and it arrived while I was at work, and Florence is like, I don't recognize where this is from, but it's from some place in Minnesota. And I was like, I know somebody in Minnesota. I'm like, so I came home and I opened up the package, and what it was, there's a note. So I got the note right here, but it was a spoon. And in fact, the spoon has an engraving inside of it that says emergency spoon. And it says, here's an emergency spoon from me and the chat room for life. We've got your back. So that was incredibly nice. And to be honest, incredibly well timed. Like its arrival came at just the right moment. And I'm actually going to pack this into my Kato bag.
Nice.
My day-to-day bag.
There you
Like
go.
I think this spoon is this spoon's going to stay with me and go in my bag and travel with me so that I have it whenever I need it. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Chat Room for Life. I have the emergency spoon, and I'm all right now, I think.
And we're like rolling up a lot of debt, like a bunch of people that we need to like just do nice things for because they've done nice things for us.
Yeah, people have been.
Way more magnanimous than. I mean, they're exactly as magnanimous as they want to be, which is way more magnanimous than maybe we deserve.
A number of people have reached out to me by email, by Twitter, in a number of different ways. Like the amount of support I've gotten has been tremendous, and I have thanked everyone individually, but I will thank everyone who has reached out to me, whether it was through casual email or something else, whatever. But a lot of people have checked to see if I was okay and how I'm doing. And I mean, it's kind of a day-to-day thing. Like it's not like work is terrible. Like that has not gone away, and I'm doing what I can to deal with it, and everything else is still kind of a mess, and I'm doing what I can to deal with that. But I'm moving along. Stuff is getting done. Hydro Hackers is getting worked on. The last moves for the last playbook are done. I just have
get to read them. Yay!
I do. I just have like the advancement sections to put in now for each book, and yeah, I'm good. Oh, you know what I can tell you? I don't remember if I mentioned it. I couldn't have mentioned it last week. We landed an artist for Rocker Boys and Vending Machines.
We sure did.
We are purchasing 2 pieces. We can say who the artist is, right?
It's Meglich.
Yeah,
because that's what she's going by right now on the Twitters.
It's
Megan Dornbach.
Yeah, and I loved her artwork.
Oh, her art is so good.
Yeah, and it was perfect for Rocker Boys and Vending Machines.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got all the contracts signed, and she's working away. I think the initial sketches are coming in like later this week or something.
It's very exciting.
And I am excited. Like John did the art write-up, and it's really good.
It is really good.
It's really good. I'm excited. And then what that means is once we have those 2 pieces of art, we're going to give all that to Tim. And we are actually going to put out a PDF on the same quality as the Lasers and Feelings PDF. We are going to put out a PDF. And of course, we're going to release it for free. But we are going to release it first to our patrons.
Yeah, give them like a month to mess around with.
Yeah, the patrons will get it first, and then we will put it out on the web and
there we go.
Let people download it. But Rocker Boys and Vending Machines, and it'll be all spiffed up and professional looking. Professional. Anyway, yeah, I'm okay.
So now that we've had our 5 minutes with Phil.
5 minutes with Phil. Bob, how you doing, man?
I'm chugging along. I kind of been in a bit of a funk since last Tuesday. More so the last like 4 or 5 days. I'm going to touch the spoon.
Just pass the spoon to Bob for a few minutes.
Just pass the spoon.
That's all right. You can pass it along. It's
it'll
need to go around table before.
Yeah, I feel like part of it is definitely it's like when you have the husband has sympathy pains for his wife when she's pregnant. I'm like in a sympathy funk for some
All
of my
us?
friends. I've got a number of people in my inner circle that are, down for various reasons.
Yeah.
And, so I'm feeling it for everybody,
It's kind of a rough autumn.
Yeah,
Like it's
2016 really has been a bit of a year for a lot of reasons.
I mean, look,
Yeah,
I
go.
know there's been a bunch of bad things that have happened. There's also been a bunch of really good things.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Like, it's just there's been a lot of highs and a lot of lows.
Yep.
I mean, and it's never been like, sometimes it's been soul crushing and sometimes it's been just spirit raising. Like,
no doubt. Yep. I mean, no doubt. It's not like 2016 was like terrible. Like there's many, many good things in 2016.
Yes.
Many, many. My day to day
It's tough.
is tough. Like, yeah, but I've not lost focus. Like there are good things happening all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are good things happening in all of our lives. I just not to make it so down all the time.
No.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point.
No, I mean, I get that. I just, I have decided to be very open about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't want to cover it up. Like, I am probably borderline depressed and I'm functional. And it's happening.
You're
it's
working through it.
I'm working through it. But I also didn't want to just, I don't feel like we have to cover those things.
No, you don't have to
I think a
sign-
lot of people, I mean, there are people who hide that and I just didn't want to.
Yeah.
depression is a serious thing.
It is.
And covering it up is what causes more trouble.
No, I would rather you talk about it than
I
not.
think absolutely. I think the fact that you were brave enough to put it out there, somebody out there in listener land took that and it helped. And if we can help one person who maybe has an issue with depression, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but yes, there have been lots of good things. And one of them was not me getting my hot water tank replaced today.
No.
That makes my changing the tire thing in the rain kind of weak.
No, you had to change the tire in the rain. I sat in the house and watched a couple of dudes do the work.
I spent $25 buying a new
I
tire.
spent $1,600.
Right. See, there's a difference.
But I got a spiffy new state of the art, highly efficient, yada yada yada. So that's the good stuff.
Can you check it with your phone or something?
No, I can't do that.
I mean,
Oh, that would be sweet.
check the water levels with your
yeah.
phone and shit.
So there was that, and I did a bad thing today because I was in kind of a funk on my way home from work to be there for the guys to do the thing. I stopped at Burger King for lunch, and I grabbed the Bacon King for all 1,040 calories and had that for lunch.
Wait, listen, I gotta say
That was a fist bump that
Say
you
the
didn't
thing.
see.
So I think you guys know because I've talked about it on the show. There's been this this taco place I keep going to. Right?
yeah.
So I scheduled a meeting today with a couple of my coworkers called strategic planning for us to go to the taco place. So we get in the car, we drive to the taco place, and I get there and I walk in. There's a back door to the place. I go in the back door and there's a cop, full on like gun, body armor, the whole 9 yards, and he's like, "No lunch today." And we're like, "What?" As it turns out, the owners of the taco place and the 3 other restaurants they own in Buffalo may have been illegally harboring illegal aliens, making them work 14 to 18-hour days and paying them next to nothing and making them live in houses that they rented to them. So the feds raided all of those restaurants today and took the owners out in handcuffs and
Wow.
so as if my day wasn't rough enough because, I had my shitty morning meeting, I was ready to go have some tacos. And now I don't know if my taco place is ever going to open again.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, soon there'll be Lloyd cranberry and turkey tacos.
That's great. These tacos were actually better than Lloyd's.
I know they were. At least we have a decent fallback.
No, it's all right. I can fall back to Lloyd's. Like, that's okay. But I mean, I was...
That's right, everybody. I said cranberry and turkey tacos.
Oh my God. It's the burrito. It's the gobbler.
the
It's
gobbler.
called.
The gobbler
Oh my
is
God.
ridiculous.
I've made my own. I made my own after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally doable. It's so good. Anyway, yes. So my taco place may never open again.
So we've interrupted Bob twice now.
I'm
that's
so
all right.
sorry. It just, you reminded me when you said BK, it reminded me of my lunch and how horrible it went.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
the Bacon King. It was very tasty and worth the 1,040 calories. I still came in under my goal for the day because I didn't go crazy at dinner.
Hey man,
so
that's
that's
something.
the important part because lately I've been hitting my calorie count or going over like way too often. So I splurged, but then I tried to make up for it. So, Chris, have a spoon. What's going on with you, man?
We're passing the spoon. This is a spiffy spoon. Rub it, make it all shiny. I'm just hammering away at stuff. I'm writing and such. I went apple picking this weekend. That was pretty fun. I've been watching the DC shows. Those are great. I am working out my unemployment stuff, which has been problematic at best because my boss didn't file paperwork for me correctly for the last 10 years. So New York State decided that I didn't make any money for 10 years.
Yeah.
Which means, should I just go and apply for like welfare and stuff? Like, will I just get the ton? I'm not saying that I'm going to, but
I don't know how that works. Like,
it's just funny. That's all.
well, I mean, I'm glad you're using the word funny now because
it was frustrating, but it's. I think I'm close to having it solved. So.
It sucks when your
Whatever.
employer is like, yeah, blah, 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 no problems. And then later on, it's like, you are so screwed.
Yeah, they just didn't do what they were supposed to do. So then I catch all the flack for it, which is fine. I've been applying for jobs here and there, trying to find something that'll suit my skill set. That is not cleaning toilets.
Yes. Not that.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough to get some work here and there. I did a bunch of layout. That's done. We're gonna get paid for that. That's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
I'm done almost. We have We have a book that we were working on called 30 Paranoia Plots or Paranoia Plots.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that in a while.
No,
but we're sitting on a.
That's just coming out. Like it's in editing and in layout type stuff right now.
Yeah, we actually made a deal with the publishers. We actually have a bunch of art assets. So when we're officially allowed to put it out.
Yeah.
We have art assets from the new Paranoia book that we can fold into ours.
It was written by Garrett Crow from Threats
Yep.
from Gallifrey, and I developed it and edited it to begin with, and now we're going to pass it over to Bob and Sean to let them take a look at it, and Tim and John have been working on the art plan and the layout for it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem was that we didn't want to release it. Like, we've had it for a while.
We didn't want to release it until Paranoia came out. It's supposed to come out this month.
Right. So, because that was the thing. Like, we didn't want to release the Paranoia thing and then it get lost until...
Because Garrett was lucky enough to be on the playtest, so there's a lot of suggestions for the new rules that are involved in the game in it, so it wouldn't really work as well for previous versions.
Right. So we've been sitting on it, and now, like, as we're hearing rumors that it's getting close, we're like, oh, we should light this thing up and get it ready to go out on drive-thru.
Yeah, so I got the last section of it cleaned up, and I think it's in a good state, and I'm looking forward to putting it together and getting it out there for people. Plus, I'm writing D&D stuff. Plus, I'm working on something I can't talk about, which is really cool. I started doing research.
I know the thing you can't talk about. It is really cool.
Yeah, I started doing a bunch of research for it. This stuff just writes itself.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's my week. By the way, DC Show is great. It's like watching a comic book on TV every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
I managed to get a bunch of Luke Cage watched this weekend because I was
very
home
nice.
by myself. And I know we're going to talk about it later because I'm I think 3 episodes away from the finale. So I'm
I
excited.
believe the week after Phil comes back from his conference that he's going to,
We'll sit and talk about it.
we're gonna do a salon on it.
Yeah.
Which means we're gonna not just talk about it, but talk about how to gamify it.
Awesome. So that episode we'll just call Sweet Christmas.
Sweet Christmas.
Sweet Christmas.
That's right.
Because I don't ever want to just talk about nerdy stuff. I mean, I like talking about nerdy stuff unless we're related to gaming some way, shape, or form.
Right, but we do a thing with our nerdy stuff is
Correct.
we weaponize it for gameplay.
Yeah, at some point we're gonna talk about the DC shows, probably about mid-season, which you don't watch, but that just means it'll be me.
Yeah, but I just got to get caught up on Supergirl.
Yeah, then you can talk about
There you
Supergirl.
It moved to the CW, and my DVR did not move to the CW. So I'm gonna go watch.
First 2 episodes have Superman.
Yeah.
Like Superman cast and in there.
You know, can I say something? Now, I know you've seen him and loved him. I'm going to tell you that I'm a little wary.
It's a show about family and their family, and it's great.
Okay. Because there's a way to bring Superman on that show and do it all wrong.
There is, and they didn't.
Good. I mean, I kind of figured they wouldn't because the way they write that show, I think they would be cognizant of it. But boy, I loved the first season that he wasn't in it.
Yeah, it was
I was
great.
very happy that it was just Kara and she solved her problems and it wasn't Superman
Yeah, and still like that.
right, Deus Ex Superman.
They help each other.
Yeah, I'm okay with that then. Good. Because I saw the things and I'm like, oh, please don't.
And in reality, it's Superman and Supergirl, right? Like, they're Superman and Supergirl. They don't really, like, the things that really threaten them aren't the things that threaten them. Like, there was a thing in episode 2 that threatens them, but that's not what that show's actually about.
No. So good because I said, I was a little
they're this close to Justice League
yeah,
on TV.
on TV. They should just do it on TV and skip the movie.
Well, there's a 4-part crossover between Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow that comes mid-season.
Well, that'll be cool.
And the 2-line tag for it is Alien Invasion.
Sweet. That's all right.
So there you go.
That'll be good. Okay, so that was some stuff, man.
That was some stuff. Okay, let's
That's
move
right.
on to the workshop. Welcome to the workshop, where we try to build better games. All right. So we're going to talk about jamming styles versus designer intent. So Phil, would you please explain to the folks at home and the folks listening out there what we're talking about and what it means?
Yeah. Can I just ask Bob to do something first?
Sure.
Can you just do the thing?
The thing?
Yeah.
Thing that you say.
Oh, yeah. Hey, gang, we're going long.
Okay. I wanted to put it out there because I've already seen the show notes, right? Like, let's not pretend.
Oh man,
Totally going long.
totally going.
Let's
long.
not pretend. Let's just be upfront. We're gonna have a discussion, and I've got a break planned in the middle of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so this is like a thing that I've said a number of times on the mics and always said like, okay, We should talk about it. We should talk about it. We should talk about it. And tonight we're going to talk about it. And so here's where it came about. A couple weeks ago, you were like, I was talking about getting Hydra hackers, right?
And I was like, you should just let me run it.
Right. And I was like,
No.
like on the inside, I mean, because like all of a sudden I was like, no, I actually don't want you to run this. And I was a little nervous about it. Like,
Well, let's be honest. One, it's your design. Two, you don't want me to design it with you. You want me to develop it after you're done designing it.
right. So that is a part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And part of it was going to be that I right now don't have enough of the setting written. I have a lot of the mechanics written. Mm-hmm. So the setting, the world, how I think the game is supposed to be run, all of that stuff resides in my head.
Yeah.
So if I give you the mechanics, you're going to go run it, but you're going to run it how Chris runs a game.
He's going to sneeze at it.
Well,
Well,
probably.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I'm going to, ask you questions, of course. But yeah, I mean,
in the absence, like sitting at the table when I'm not around and you're running it, things are going to get created that may not necessarily have been something I thought about or thought should be in the world.
it's true.
Yeah. So anyway, this is what hammers home the point is that
Can I say
Yeah,
something
go ahead.
about the intent of Apocalypse games too? It's
Yeah.
one, you have the moves, and the moves help constrain things, but the setting's the other thing that helps constrain stuff.
Right.
So it's actually important.
yeah, and I don't have a lot of it written.
And since you actually have a setting in place
Yeah.
that you want to present, there's not something that you're making up on the fly. It's not just general cyberpunk. It's also not even just general aquapunk.
Yeah, it's actually
It's a very specific space,
yeah.
which hopefully in the future you'll let me write my own version of some aquapunk thing to go along with it.
Oh, we can drift the game after.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that by all means. So what wound up happening was I realized like, okay, here's the thing. Like the mechanics are done. So technically, yes, I could give you the mechanics of this game. You could run the game. But I have not done anything as a designer to convey to you how I want the game to be run, because the rules are tuned a certain way, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rules are tuned for that setting. And again, if you run it differently, your mileage will vary. And part of that was going to be that playtest feedback was going to come back. And I would be like, well, is that actually a design problem? Or did Chris just not run the part of the Hydra hack the same way I would have done it? And how do I know which one's which?
And then how do you fix that?
And how do I fix it, right? So I actually asked you if it would be okay if you held off and let me kind of get more material together and put it together. And so that's like kind of like the little prelude. And so this is what we're talking about. We're talking about GM style. That is how you run games normally, like the things you like to do, your comfort zone, those kinds of things, versus what the designer of the game intended for how the game should be run.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about GMing style. Okay. So your GMing style is a mix of a few things. It is a mix of games you've played, which means mechanics, settings, and other GMs who've run things for you and
Yeah.
other players you've played with.
Yeah, and we're talking about games that you have played where you weren't the game master, where you were actually one of the other people sitting at the table.
Absolutely. Right. Because
You weren't facilitating; you were actually a character in the world or part of the play. Not the game master role.
the vast majority of us come into the hobby as a player.
That's true.
Very few of us come in initially as a GM.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I came in as a player and then transitioned up over. Okay. Past games you've run. So stuff that you've actually run also has an influence on your style,
Sure does.
obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Advice you've consumed.
That's true.
APs you've heard.
That is a thing that could be possible.
Because APs are not things you've played or ran, but you're listening to other people run them.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, that is a way that a lot of people have learned or developed a style these days.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a thing available when back when I was a boy.
Yeah, even when I was learning all this stuff.
They
like,
and with Bob, like they literally would have been on like 33.
it's weird because it's like advice you have consumed, but it's the actual play. It's the play of the advice. That
Yeah,
you-
yeah, it's the actual use.
yeah. You get to see it. In fact, watching, it's almost the same as being in the game, but you're one step removed.
Right, you're not contributing, but it's like you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to ask you first to talk a little bit about your style. And I thought we'd just do these categories. So what is a game you've played that had an influence on your style?
So there are two games in specific that changed the way that I viewed how games got ran and played. And that was a gentleman named Nick Logue, who used to write for Piazzo and some campaign settings for, he has a campaign setting called Razor Coast out that was finally published by Frog God Games. He was a special guest at UBCon a bunch of years ago, and his primary job was he was a theater guy, like taught theater and improv theater specifically. So I watched him run 3.5 D&D in a way that I'd never seen it run before, which is the way that we play Dungeon World now.
Yeah.
And that changed the way that I thought about games.
Okay.
So that game, right in specific, 2 games I played with him, and how he ran them was probably the biggest pivot for me as a game master.
Nice. How about a game you've run that's kind of influenced your
Why
style?
don't we do what about you playing?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, sitting in your Dungeon World game changed me, because you're the person that I dissected. And
It's a chain, people. It's a chain.
well, I mean, you're the person I dissected to learn how to improv a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I watched you run games, and then I would pick your brain afterwards and ask you questions about, did you make up this part? Like, oh, I see what you did here, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, so playing in Airy Peaks was a pivotal moment for my game style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super recent. I mean, we're 30 years of gaming before that. There have been other moments, but I flagged that one. All right, so now tell me, game you've run.
The 4th edition D&D game that I ran for like a year and a half. And it was because I applied... So, it sounds weird because it's 4th edition D&D. It has a really nice solid combat engine, but everything else is not very good in it. So I applied as many styles of play and themes as I could on top of that combat engine, from horror to conspiracy to mystery to action adventure, two-fisted action to personal drama, to give me all of that initial experience doing all of those things. So that campaign taught me how to do what I wanted to do with a game system.
Nice. Yeah.
And also develop my own stuff on top of it. What about you?
Well, 2 games that I ran really kind of hammered home part of a style that I love. Amber Diceless and Conspiracy X. And I ran them at almost the same time, the same period of my life. But that's where I learned 2 things. I learned conspiracies, because that, obviously Conspiracy X, but Amber also is riddled with conspiracies. And pacing. Both of those games need a serious amount of pacing to go properly in different ways. So Conspiracy X needs pacing as not to blow through the conspiracy too quickly. And Amber, because it's all the players are rarely working together, is a whole bunch of smash cuts. Like you have to just keep, like, you have 6 people in an Amber game, almost none of them are in the same scene. So you are constantly like trucking around the table to keep the game moving. So both of those had like a real big influence on both ends of pacing, right? How to slow things down and how to keep things moving.
I think it was Drew Smith who taught me, or at least got me on the track to being a better smash cut GM, like being able to jump from player to player.
Yeah.
And then I practiced a little bit, and then I got really good at it.
I learned by watching my Amber players starting to like doze off. Like, because I would get into these scenes and they would just go super long. And then I'm like looking and I'm like,
Can't do that.
Right.
Yep.
I got really good at like, okay, if my total plot for tonight is like, 4 things, I'm going to do the first thing for every person, come back around, do the second thing for every person, that way. And I structured my prep that way. Like everybody's personal storyline would have a fixed number of scenes, and then I would just, line them up and go around and just keep going around.
I like how they have games now that just fix that problem for us.
Well,
they teach you those things.
I mean, listen, here's the thing with Amber. Amber is barely a rule set. Okay. Super thin rules because it's diceless, and super thin diceless because there's no resource mechanic. It is literally just GM fiat.
Yeah.
It has a modest amount of GMing advice. It has a hefty amount of setting, and then it's like, good luck. Like modern games have done a much better version, a much better way of teaching this. But Amber's like this, like really crazy trial by fire. Like but I would say nowadays, I think if someone played a whole bunch of modern games like Apocalypse World games and stuff like that, like I think they would just easily take to Amber. But I'm telling you, coming off of games like D&D, Cyberpunk, and
I
Shadowrun,
don't think Apocalypse World games teach this at all.
well, other story style games. I mean, there's
Fiasco, Drama
Sure.
System.
Yeah.
Drama System's a great one for it. Yeah. But
well, I will say this, and not to get too tangenty. What Powered by the Apocalypse teaches you that's applicable to Amber is how to make a hard move.
yeah, sure.
Because there are moments in the game where things stop
Mm-hmm.
and players don't know what to do because the world is so infinite that you need to make a move.
Yeah.
Like that's what it teaches you. But point being is that I think if you took a player or a GM who played a lot of story games today and dropped them in Amber, they would survive. But the other way around, coming out of like those heavy traditional 80s, 90s games and picking up this Amber game, like
There's no bits to fiddle with.
there's nothing to fiddle.
Yeah, that's why. Like,
well, it's whatever the GM fiddles with.
well, yeah, but like, there's no bits for the player to fiddle with.
No,
Yeah.
there's narrative positioning. Like that's how you get. That's
Amber
how
is
you
all
get.
about narrative positioning.
That's how you get anything done in that
whole
game.
game is narrative positioning.
Yes. Anyway, those games shaped me in terms of pacing.
Sure.
And my love of conspiracies.
So that's a game that taught you how to run as we got off on a tangent.
Yeah.
So advice.
You want me to do mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Robin's Laws of Good Game Mastering. That was the first time I had ever learned about player types. And it was the thing that kind of opened up my eyes that you have to tailor the game to appeal to different players. Because players have different types and they're trying to get something special. Not special. They're trying to get their thing out of the game. And that one size doesn't fit all. And that a little tweaking and I could make sure that something's in there for you as well as for Bob.
Sure.
And it was the first time I think I'd ever seen anything that was like a book of just GMing advice. And I was like, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
thing. Those things exist now.
How about you?
Play dirty. And,
John Wick's book.
Yeah, John Wick's book. So I might have some strong opinions about John Wick as a person, but his game design and advice is pretty solid. So it was better to that thing taught me that it was better to threaten and hurt characters and the things that they care about rather than killing them. So that was super important to me.
No sport in killing.
There is no sport in killing, but there's plenty of sport in saying I'm going to take your heart away and replace it with a crystal made of ice.
And look how I behaved.
Yeah, and there's plenty of sport in saying, "Oh, look, Bob, poor Laneth, your wolf, is falling down a hole with the immolator. What do you do?"
Panic. That's what I do.
So that's way more fun than just saying you take a bunch of damage. And then the other one was play unsafe, because while I wanted to be more of an improv game master, I didn't know how to. So that book taught me a whole bunch of improv techniques that I could bring to the table.
I like that book as well.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that book's excellent.
Play unsafe, everybody.
Yeah.
You should go get it.
Graham
Read
Wemsley?
it. I don't remember who wrote it.
I think that's Graham Wemsley.
So what about APs, man?
All right, so this will be no shocker because I actually never listened to APs until last year. But She's a Super Geek taught me you can have fun playing. Like I have been for a long time a pretty serious GM in terms of I like serious storylines. I like, my games to be tense, dark, gritty, that kind of thing. But She's a Super Geek was the AP that like I listened to it and I was like, this game is fun. Like, and everybody's having fun and laughing. And, I was fortunate before.
Their version of fun is silly to ridiculous in a lot of ways.
Yes, but I'm like the exact opposite, right? Like I'm super straight laced. But after that, I went and ran Lasers and Feelings, and I ran Action Movie World.
Yeah,
and,
you picked up a whole different set of games.
Right, and I suddenly realized that that's a lot of fun, and I tend to play wackier con games. I still play mostly serious campaigns, but I will drift towards one-shots and things like that are funnier. Just because it's okay to laugh while gaming in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that one was it was influential for me.
I don't actually get influenced by APs. I was already as developed as I'm probably going to be when I started listening to them. That's not the reason I go to them.
Not the philosophy of the constant learner.
There's not.
Have you reached your pinnacle?
No, but the APs don't do it for me, man.
Okay, that's not a place. So you listen to AP for entertainment.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, no, and that's fine if that's not a place
or
where
they're
you.
there to teach me rules.
Okay, no, and trust me, those are both. Trust me.
I mean, the closest one that's taught me something new because of how I was approaching it, right, was when I listened to the role-playing public radio folks play their 4th edition game, and they were doing a lot of the same things that I was. I was like, it was more like validation, like, yay, look, they're doing the thing that I want to be doing, and that means or the thing that I am doing, so I don't feel like I'm such a freak. Because when I would tell people I play 4th edition like this, everybody would be looking like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, that's not how that game goes. I'm like, well, shut up.
Yeah.
Like
No, it's fine. It's fine. We can talk about constant improvement.
Constant improvement is a thing that I do, but I get it from playing with people, from running for people, and from advice. APs it's fun to listen to people run games, but like, I don't know, like if they're if it's not edited, I'm not listening to it.
I'm totally okay with that as well.
2, if it is edited, then you don't actually hear what they're actually doing on a moment-to-moment basis.
Right. So then you're not seeing the sausage being made.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I mean, but when you're playing the game, you see everything that's happening.
Yeah.
When you're running the game, you feel everything that's happening around you. That is the problem with AP. Like, it is boring as balls for me to sit there and listen to an unedited AP.
Yeah, I will agree. And I will say this. I have an unfair advantage in some ways when it comes to SassGeek, because I often get the behind the scenes as well as, like, I listen to the episode and then I wind up chatting with Senda, and then she'll just tell me, like, oh, here's the thing that happened right here in the, like, you didn't hear it, but here's the thing that happened.
Yeah, like I watched the Grey Force Giant Hunters with Matt Mercer running it, and he's a great game master, but it's super edited, right? Like, they're taking a bunch of time and editing it down to 25-minute chunks. Like, I'm not actually, like, I'm seeing cool stuff, but it's stuff that I know how to do first off. Like, they're not getting into, I can't see all the mistakes, and that's where I learn stuff anyway.
Right.
I mean, I know what improv acting is all about. I know, and I'm just seeing different techniques, I guess. I mean, I guess there's little things that I learn at that point, but it's very rare that an AP teaches me something it's better if I'm sitting there at the table.
That D&D AP, the one we saw in the theater.
Yeah.
Like, I had that effect. Like, that was unedited.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
What did I learn? Don't wear a costume.
Right. Well, I learned
Yeah.
like, at least they were funny.
Well, it was entertainment.
Right. Because what I mean is, like, when it was slow, at least the players were funny.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay. Like, I enjoyed going because it was fun to actually go to a theater and watch D&D.
Yeah.
But it also was an unedited live play, and it was slower than.
And that was even them trying to make it faster.
Right.
Like, they weren't messing around or anything.
They weren't.
So
yeah, okay. So that's fine. I mean, and that's legitimate. Like, it's not that you have to. It's not that every one of these feeds your style.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever learned a single thing from James D'Amato running games, but I've been sure as fuck entertained by James D'Amato running games.
Yeah, that's legitimate. That's fine. I mean, and I think I feel like that's his intent.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say this: there is for me I would love something like a pop-up videos of like a live play where little windows popped up and we're like, hey, here we did a thing.
Here's the thing that Garrett used to do, and unfortunately Garrett's sound quality for his Star Wars game that he used to run was god awful. Unfortunately, he used to do these GM like he used to pop himself in the middle of running the game to do these GM notebook things and say, this is what I did during the game.
That's pretty cool.
That's a teaching moment right there.
Right.
That's useful. Like,
I mean,
if the point is to not just entertain, but to educate, then that is the thing that you need to do as an AP.
I mean, I feel like
that's a lot of work.
It is. I feel like I'm going to wind up for Hydro Hackers wanting to do like a mini AP, but not edited and with notes.
Oh yeah, and sorry everybody who runs their APs out there. That's just me. Other people could probably learn stuff from your stuff. It's my opinion, not anybody else's.
Like, I think I want to do a pop-up video kind of thing, like that teaches the hydro hack stuff and probably the neighborhood stuff.
Also, if I had these APs when I was 12, I would have learned a shit ton.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, at 12, I'd have learned from anyone.
Yeah.
I was an empty bucket.
Seeing other people running games is very useful. It's just not as useful for me. It's better for me to be at the table.
Back when I was a boy, if you wanted to see an AP, you actually had to go sit and watch somebody play.
That's true.
And that happened.
Yeah, it happened too. I used to watch people running games every once in a while.
Right.
For about 15, 20 minutes, and then I'd walk away because it was boring.
Yes. Yes. There is a thing about being in a game versus watching a game. There is a difference.
There is.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about design intent. So when a designer designs a game, they have some ideas of how they want the game to be run. Now, that's not necessarily to say like you must run it this way, but in their head when they're designing, they've got an idea of what this game is supposed to play like, because that's how they're trying to design it. So they hopefully have built mechanics to support this. Sometimes that may vary. The games that I really like, I can see this, right? Like I can see this is what you wanted to have happen, and these are the rules that support that happening. I get more scared when I can't make those connections when I'm reading through a rule book.
Yeah, it's tricky then. Like,
But I also will say that a lot of times game masters do this subtly when I really would just like them to be overt. Like, throw a sidebar, have a second chapter. Like, John Wick does a really good job of this. Houses of the Blooded, the GMing section of Houses of the Blooded, John, like, takes a section is like, look, here's how to totally game this system. And this is why you shouldn't do it. Like, it'll be boring, it'll be this, this, and this. He does another one where he's like, this game really should, like, this game can be played PvP. I don't recommend it. And then he has like a whole explanation of like, this is what's going to happen if you play this game PvP. But he says, but if you're going to do it, then here's a few, like, here's a couple things you need to know.
yeah.
So I really like when I really like when game designers just come out and say it. Like, I feel like there was a belief way back when that you had to like craft this stuff and not be overt about it. Like, we're going to bake this stuff in, and kind of subtly through the way we describe the mechanics in the GMing section, you'll just kind of magically know how to play our game.
Well, I will give you a perfect example of this
Right.
too. Not even that, like the idea that this game can do a bunch of different things.
Right.
Because it's harder to tell people how to use it then. Although they could just be like, this game can be used to do a bunch of different things, and we don't have enough pages to fit it all in here, but
Right.
we'll do the best we can.
Well, and here's like the top 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So like Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, it has some modular rules on the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide to make it do some slightly different things. Are they all great? No, but at least they put them there, and they try to explain a little bit of how to do that.
Right.
But it's not great.
No. I mean, the old days, TSR did this by just keep releasing settings.
Yeah, that was that. Because
I mean, not a good financial model,
no.
but, if you look at like Dragonlance, Dark Sun, and Spelljammer, like, they're showing you like, here's some things you can do with D&D. I mean, they went and did it themselves.
And they put a bunch of extra different kinds of rules on there to make those settings as flavorful as they needed to be with the
Exactly.
mechanics.
Yeah. I mean, Dark Sun had the Defiler stuff, which was just wicked.
Yeah, and they changed all the classes and races that you could have.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Who doesn't want to play a mole? I love moles.
oh yeah. Right. It's awesome.
Mole Gladiator? Let's bring it. Bring it.
Thrycreen.
Thrycreen.
There we go.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Pardon my language.
We are explicit. They have been warned.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
So anyway, I am a big fan of fully just put this shit out there. And we talked about that last week when we talked about GMing chapters. But anyway, a couple games that do a good job of this. And I don't want to dwell on it because we've talked about some of these in the past. But Headspace.
The game is about emotions, man.
And so much so that there's no physical damage in that game.
Just those emotional stress tracks.
Damage turns into emotional stress. That's a case where Mark had it very explicitly said this is a game about emotions, and then the mechanics back that up. So that kind of thing. Like, that's the designer's intent, and that's how the designer carried it through mechanically. What's a great way? What's a game that has the designer's intent conveyed in terms of GMing advice?
Oh, I mean, Night's Black Agents is great for that. Yeah.
Like Ken,
He lists it out.
Ken kills it.
We obviously have a bias, and that's okay. I mean, it's good to point out that we have a bias towards games that are focused.
We do, absolutely. We should.
I mean, you do especially. Like
absolutely.
I like D&D, so I mean, it's got more spread to it.
You're absolutely correct. I like focus games very much.
We both enjoy Fate. Not as much as we used to, but we still enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
And that is not necessarily a focus game.
No.
The only focus of that is that the characters are going to be proactive, competent, and dramatic.
Correct.
And they are. Like, the mechanics do that.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so having kind of gone a roundabout on that,
And by the way, Fate does a great job of explaining how you can mess with it.
So much so they made an extra book.
Couple books.
Yeah. So how do these things come into play? When we sit down to run a game, two things are happening. We've read the game to prepare ourselves to run it. We have hopefully ingested the mechanics to some extent, right? Because it's your first time running it. And we've read whatever GMing section there is, and hopefully that has conveyed some information to us about how to run it. And we also show up with our style.
Yes.
And now these two things kind of come together. And the tricky part for the designer is that the designer is not present at the point that the book is published.
Well, that's what the book is for, to convey the designer's intent to the
Correct.
players.
And there is a range of how well that's done.
That's true.
Yes.
Well, if it's done rather well, then the game should be easy to understand.
Right.
If it's not done rather well, then we start guessing.
So when we run, we're mixing those two things. We're looking at the designer intent. We have our own style, and they're coming together. And we're in control of the ratio by which we want to do that. So we can, and you and I have talked about this because eons ago we joked about, and I forget what crappy system it was, but you had said something like, I had mentioned some terrible system, and you're like, I could run the hell out of that system. And I was like, well, of course you could, because you're not gonna focus on the design intent. You're gonna run it like Chris runs games.
Well, I'm going to run it like the setting intended.
Right. And you're gonna run that, and it'll work fine. So what basically you did is, like, by saying that statement, it's like, I'm gonna dial up my style over the mechanical intent.
Angela Murray's Gnome Stew article that happened not too long ago about riffs is the perfect example of this. Like, they tried to play Palladium riffs, and that game just didn't work. Even with a good game master and a bunch of quality players, that game just fell apart.
Right.
Like, there was nothing that game was doing that the intent of the game was trying to provide. But when they played the Savage Riffs version, it worked a billion times better for them. Like, they had a successful game. They had a good time with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about here.
Yeah. And what it really means is that, we'll talk about it in a second about how these things line up. All right. So anyway, there's a continuum of how much of the designer's intent are you going to carry through to your game versus how much of your own style, and what trumps what,
And where does it not even help?
right, and where those even miss each other.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought we would take a break, talk to the chat room for a second, and then jump back in and talk about how these things interplay.
Here we go. Chat room, entertain me.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, first of all, there's much love in there for Dark Sun. And
of course there is.
I've got people behind me on Thry-Kreen, baby. Yeah.
Woo! Is Wayne in the chat room?
Yep.
Of course, he's leading the charge, I'm sure, on the Dark Sun
Yes,
love.
Is there anyone who doesn't like Dark Sun?
It's not my favorite.
I never actually played
But you
it.
dig it as a setting?
I think it's cool.
Okay.
I don't know if I mean, no one's ever run it for me. If somebody wanted to run it for me, I'd play it.
I feel like-
that is not a campaign that I want to run, and it seems weird because it seems like something that I would want to run,
Kind of does.
but it's not, because if I'm going to play D&D, I want to play Spelljammer.
Yeah.
But I want to play my Spelljammer.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just say that I'm actually not surprised by that statement. That is actually very true. Like, the way you like to run games, Spelljammer is very much you.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Right. No, it's not, because Dark Sun is probably more like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, your style versus my jamming style.
Dude, I hate the way that Spelljammer is presented in second edition.
Yeah.
But everything I want to do to it, because I want to make it more space opera
Yeah.
than it is. So I mean, what
was that 80s cartoon with the steel the armored bird things with the rock music and
Silverhawks.
Silverhawks, man.
Silverhawks.
Silverhawks. It
Did
was like Thundercats, but in space, and I loved it.
I know.
Of course,
See,
I
I
loved
knew it. I knew
it. It was
it.
music, and it was because they played music. Those were their weapons, and they were space opera, and it was terrible, and it was amazing. Like it was great to my 8-year-old mind.
I knew it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved it as well.
Come on, I'm going to say it right now.
Yeah.
The Queen, Senda, would have loved it too because it was music based. But she doesn't know what it is because she was in a cult.
Yeah.
I never watched it either, but I know it existed. And
Bob, you're also
we've
like
discussed
20.
it before.
Bob, you're also like 20. You would have hated it. It was terrible.
Well,
Now let me just say this: that age-wise, I'm watching Silverhawks at the same time I'm watching Robotech.
Well,
And I mean, if you just want to talk about the vast difference between
Sure.
storytelling and
Yeah.
animation, and don't get me wrong, I loved all those things: Silverhawk, Masks, Galaxy Rangers.
yeah, but those are terrible compared to Robotech.
Yeah, like Robotech was.
We're talking like a bunch of levels of storytelling beyond.
Yeah, like Robotech was the first cartoon. Like somebody died. Like
that's
I mourned a character.
like that's Cowboy Bebop for me.
Right. Like I was like a kid in school. Like I don't want to say it because in case people haven't watched the series, but there's like a character who gets killed in the Macross series, and I'm like, like I couldn't. Like I was like, no way, he's coming back. He ain't coming back.
Nope.
That was the first lesson I learned about Japanese animation. He ain't coming back.
He ain't coming back.
He did.
He did.
Yeah. Anyway, what else the chat room got?
Let's bring it back in here.
Oh, but we're having fun.
We've had a lot of discussion about actual plays.
Sure, of course, because I said something negative
yeah.
about it.
Well, you made points.
I did.
And somebody mentioned that Jim D'Amato's
James
D'Amato's intent
I know-
was to entertain.
I know his intent is
so,
to entertain.
So yeah, so it's not it's not wrong. It's
I'm there. Like I said, if I was 12 and I had APs, it'd be a different story.
exactly.
Like the more useful thing for me is to be at the table so I can actually interact with
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah, it's generally agreed from a lot of people, especially Ange. She says that she thinks that APs are more useful to newer GMs than they are to the seasoned vets.
I agree.
And
I agree.
a lot of people seem to agree that they're good for players to get an idea of what's going on and how the game is played.
That is
and stuff
also-
like that.
that is also true.
So there's a general consensus there. And Jim McClure did make a point that he worries that he's seen some people that think certain GMs are expert level from the context of things where things have been edited out. So, if things are heavily edited, then these people look like they're expert level GMs.
true.
Where it may not be really the case.
Mercer's
So-
Mercer's actually an excellent game master because you can just go listen to him in Critical Role, which is less edited.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's nice. Like, I don't think Perkins is as good as everybody gives him credit for. I'm just not I mean, I think he's fine. Like, he's a very good
Yeah.
game master, but he's not the end all be all. Adam Kobel's great. Like,
Yeah.
he is fantastic.
Hey, I mean, I have good days. Like, I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. Like, sure. I mean, my GMing advice comes from like, the wake of dead campaigns behind me.
I still think my bad days are better than most people's goods.
I can't actually discern any of your bad days.
That's my point. Like,
Yeah.
I'm always at a certain level.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
From
I-
having played as many games with you as I have, you've
There's-
got a fairly high level.
I will also say this, though. I will also say this for your game. Your bad days are also somewhat masked by the caliber of player at your table.
Well, you don't see the other games that I run though.
No,
Like,
I
only
don't.
have this table.
No, I'm talking about like Airy Peaks.
If you go ask Jen and Steve and Bridget, they will tell you the same.
Yeah, like Airy Peaks, like even if you were like half dead,
Yeah.
like we could have carried a whole game.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, it helps, right? Like it
Well, of course it helps.
Yeah, it takes a lot of pressure off.
But you're not the only group that I have.
No.
Yeah.
That's true. I've seen some of your other groups though. You stock your groups pretty well.
Yeah, I taught those people how to play though.
No, I know about Bridget and Steve and Jen, but I'm talking about your D&D.
Oh, that group? That group doesn't count. They're great.
Like that's an all-star team.
They might be better than our Sunday group. So
Yeah.
I mean,
That's an all-star team right
yeah.
there.
I'm not even running that game right now. Brett is.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
All right. So one last thing, and then we can roll it back into the topic. There is a general consensus from a lot of people in here as well that having a pop-up video kind of a thing in an actual play podcast would be awesome.
yeah, ask Garrett how much work that is. A fuck ton.
Yeah.
It's a ton of work. I mean, he was really dedicated to do that. I wish he had better sound. I mean, now we can because he was using like a Blue Yeti, not even a Blue Yeti, one of those snowballs.
Yeah, I got a snowball, but you can't use it like that.
Yeah, he was using a snowball on the table to
Yeah.
record like 6 people
Yeah,
playing.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
All right, cool. All right. So, going back to talking about designer intent and GM style, let's talk about the best case scenario where you pick up a game and the designer's intent is actually complementary to your style.
Yeah. Can I say one thing?
Please.
I've actually never played a bad game with you.
Really?
Really.
Okay, thanks.
I can't think of a single session, and they usually stick out in my head that I am sad about it.
Cool.
So
well, thank you.
There you go. Like,
Well, then I hope to strive to the same level that you are, that I can pull off a.
like you were just always. It's always good. It's never bad.
Thank you.
I will say that I have played in a bad game with you as GM, but
Yeah.
it wasn't you.
Oh well.
So The game.
Oh no! I
The overall
understand.
experience,
I understand.
we've
There've been some problem players in the past,
and we've had some sessions that were just it wasn't.
Yeah. That is true.
But they were never your fault as the GM.
No, but actually, as a kind of quick segue, in Pandas Talking Games this week, we talk about problem players and dealing with.
We talk about it at the end. I got it all in there.
Very good. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the case where you pick up a game and it meshes with your style.
Well, then it's going to be really good.
Yeah, so let's talk about what that really means.
Yeah, so
right?
it's a good fit, right?
Okay.
That's what we call it.
Yeah, so it's congruent. They complement each other. So that means that the setting and the mechanics and the intent that the GM had in mind line up with how you like to run games. And so we're in full support mode. And what this often means, and I'm going to be very subjective, these games are easy to prep. This is in your wheelhouse, right? Like you can just like...
Well, you don't have to do as much work to learn the tropes and things like that because they're all in your head.
Yeah, you're just like
you get it. Like
right.
when you're putting it down on paper, whatever your prep happens to be, then you just know what needs to go there.
Right. It's easy to run. Like when you're at the table,
because you can improvise all the beats that you need to improvise because you have it all in your head.
Right. And those mechanics are helping you.
Correct.
So you're right in there using them because...
And that means you understand them too. Or
exactly.
the fact your style facilitates the mechanics.
Yeah, your style actually makes you lean on those mechanics, and those mechanics are pushing, like, are holding you, up and stuff like that.
Correct.
Okay. These sessions are intense and fun.
Generally, yes.
I mean, people come out of those sessions kind of jazzed up. You come out of the session jazzed up. Everyone's really into it. Like, and I will say, I'm going to say it in a few minutes anyway, but let's talk about examples. I'll just start. I pegged you for this one. You and Dungeon World.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing.
And when I say that everyone's really into it, our Dungeon World campaign had huge breaks. The kind of breaks that sometimes just mean like you're never playing this game again.
And sometimes I thought you weren't, and then people just wanted to keep playing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even me that brought it back up.
No, it was never a case where everyone at the table is always like, oh, we could just play Dungeon World again. Like, we could just keep going.
It's almost the ultimate compliment.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember the day, and I'm pointing towards the board?
We had 40 games on there.
We had like 40 games that we could potentially play, and then you wrote the word Dungeon World, and everything went away. Everybody went and was like, put a check mark next to Dungeon World. It was like, we can just play this again.
Except for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was funny.
So tell me, style-wise and mechanics, what is that combo doing for you?
All right, well, can I just tell you that the style of game that I brought there, that I tried to bring there anyway, like one over the top two-fisted action, which actually doesn't mesh with the game all that well. It can support that, but it doesn't mesh with that mechanic as well as it could.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hinder it.
It's true.
Okay.
Character drama, another thing that doesn't exactly mesh well, but I could bring it there.
There's plenty of room to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Difficult choices, that's actually in the game. That helps.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Weird and horrific foes and settings. Is in there. It's trying to do old school, and it's got a bunch of nice monsters and things like that for you to lean on, and a bunch of like stuff to build off of.
And good examples to kind of show you how to
very good examples
go weird.
For that. Yep.
Yep.
Large mysteries you can puzzle out if you pay attention, but not necessary for play to move forward. That's the other thing that I like to do, and that's a thing that I put in there that's not necessarily part of the game. But I stole that from. I mean, I've been doing it forever, but the most common thing is the Conspiramid from Knights Black.
Oh,
Games.
yeah.
I mean, I actually had that in there. Not exactly the same, but I mean, if you think about it, it's all in there. Like, there's the dragon at the top, there's the three spirits, there's all their lieutenants.
Oh yeah. I've murdered. I've helped murder many of them.
You murdered most of them, in fact.
Yeah.
But the game itself and the mechanics in the game, what they do is they let you tell the story of an old school dungeon crawl.
Yeah.
And we did that.
Oh, we did.
We dungeon crawled all over the place in that dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's and all that stuff, that over the top two-fisted action, it works because once we figured out that you don't have to hurt somebody with giving them damage, you can just do something else to them. Like then the game opened right up. Like we were doing all sorts of crazy stuff from the time that you were riding on the side of the war with the orc that was trying to kill you, to the getting a kiss from the Queen of Hoarfrost and Woe, to Throndir having to deal at the very end with the dragon by trying to keep the energy on the dragon to keep him together, even though he's getting killed in the process.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a typical choice thing, right? But it's all there. Like you can do all that stuff. That's what in that game. It just worked really well together. Like the base mechanics of those choices just drive everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect mesh of your style and mechanics.
Which is weird because I still don't think it's perfect.
I think that the game never hindered it and was open enough to accept what you needed it to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't until very much later that I realized I changed one of the principles.
Yeah. Which was okay though.
It was okay.
The principle you changed worked fine.
Yeah, I didn't even change it, just added it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, man? I mean, it's Knights Black Agents.
It is Knights Black Agents.
Which was weird because we're going to play it, except I'm going to run it. It's bizarre.
I know. Knights Black Agents is the espionage game I had been looking for years.
I really wish we didn't stop playing it.
That's purposely why I never revealed anything, because we could always go play it.
Yes.
But for me, that game was a combination of, I love espionage. First of all, genre-wise, I love espionage. I love all the tropes. I love conspiracies, all that stuff. And then the game just did that so well.
It does.
And really, some of the things, like the gumshoe mechanic for investigations.
It's solid.
Like that solved one of the biggest problems I had in Conspiracy X, which was, and Bob remembers this.
Yep.
We would have the clue web, just like they tell you to do in NBA, except that somebody would fail a roll.
Yeah, and then
you're just like stymied and you don't know what to do with it. Where, like, the first time I heard Robin Laws talk about the gumshoe mechanic, I was like, brilliant.
Can I tell you that I ran into a mechanic for investigation that works just as well?
Yeah. Is it just give them the clue?
No. It's not that at all. It's City of Mist.
Yeah.
That noir investigative superhero game.
Yeah.
One of the moves is to investigate, and the way that it works is you roll plus power, which I'd have to explain how you get power.
Don't worry about it.
But you just ask questions based on the constraint that you just put yourself in to the game master, and they have to answer you honestly.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's good.
Unless you roll at 7 and 9, then they can mislead you, but you still have to give them an answer. That'll drive them forward.
Also still cool.
So it's the same idea. Like, you're still getting the clue.
Yeah.
But there could be a consequence with it. So it's not a resource management game. It's just a Power by the Apocalypse
Yeah,
game.
which is great. Yeah, that may be the second. I mean, that's the second time I've seen investigation now done well.
It worked well. I ran it.
Yep.
It works just fine.
So yeah, for me, NBA just really clicked with me, and it was so easy to set up those investigations and know, like, okay, this murder scene's going to have a thing that could, and I didn't even have to prep heavy, but I'd be like, well, chemistry will be involved, forensics will be involved. Like, I was able to, like, really easily grasp onto what's going to be in a scene, so that when people had certain skills, I knew I could just give them these clues. Yeah. Anyway, meshed well. Totally. Okay. So that's the easy case, right? Like, that's the case we all want to have.
Yeah.
Is we pick up a game and it meshes well with us.
So what happens when we play a game that doesn't work, like Vampire the Masquerade?
Yeah, let's talk about when they don't.
No, we don't have to use Vampire the Masquerade.
No, we don't have to.
It's just my beatings. It's my whipping boy.
Yeah, no. I get
whipping
it.
girl or whipping person. I don't know.
Easy.
Mark your bingo board.
Easy.
Well, we can't be. We have.
I'm getting a little excited.
Oh, that's right. Okay, never
Sorry.
mind. Sorry, everybody.
Let's not talk about whipping people. All right. Let's stay on
We can
topic.
talk about flogging people, I suppose.
Oh, easy. I'm gonna lose my train of thought here.
There might be a never mind.
Never mind. Just move along.
There
Nothing to see here.
Possible podcast in the future.
Move along. Okay. Here's the thing. We can't always know that a game is gonna do what we want with, like, it's not gonna play well with our style.
Yeah.
And often until we actually get into playing it.
Yeah, that happens.
Okay, so we now have a case. Like, we're going to talk about the case where the intent of this game runs counter to how we like to run games. And so now we have, like, this discord, right? Like, we don't, like, the game is trying to do a thing, and I'm trying to do a thing, and we're working almost opposite of each other in the worst case. And how do we resolve that? Like, well, first of all, what does it feel like? To kind of go back to the other stuff. First of all, it's difficult to prep. It can be, because you're just like, oh, like, I don't like these.
Well, every time you write a thing, you're like, well, they can subvert this thing. Like, every time you have any kind of idea of what could be going on or some kind of drama that you want to create, it doesn't matter, because they have a button that they can push that can subvert it or deal with it, because even though the game says it's about the thing that you're trying to write, they can just get around it, so it's really not then.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It is. It can be just a lot.
Yeah, I mean, then you, like, For instance, the Heart of Nightfang Spire has a whole page. It's a D&D mod from 3.5 for like 10th to 12th level characters. There's a whole page of magical spells and words and stuff that is put on Nightfang Spire so that you can't just teleport on the inside of it. And it covers like 40 different spells. Like, that's a problem.
That's because what it's telling you is like
this game's not about dungeon delving anymore, and there's a dungeon for you to go delve. But
Right.
you can just delve right to the middle of it. So we have to come up with all of these wards and guards and things like that, so that you can't just teleport inside and do the thing.
right. Yeah, yeah. It's
That's a problem.
Oh, it's right. So difficult to prep.
The game's not about dungeon crawling then at that point.
Exactly. Right.
So stop writing dungeon stories. Okay, I'm done.
Uncomfortable to run. Like, you just can't get your groove going running this game. Well, we'll talk about how you might be able to, but it's not helping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Inconsistent sessions. Sometimes the session's really good. Sometimes
really
it's
bad.
Right. Which often leads to lack of intensity at the table because it's just not great. And you're up, you're down, you don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So you have two choices when this happens. You actually have a third. Third is stop playing the game.
Yeah.
But we're going to take that one away.
Okay.
Okay. You have two choices. You can choose to dominate the game with your style. Like, you could just be like, screw these rules. I want to run it like this.
That is Phil's Vampire the Masquerade game.
Yeah. So much so that I dominated the rules right out of the game. Mm-hmm. Like, I removed 90% of the White Wolf mechanics, put in a resource mechanic based on the character sheets. I kept the powers, the skills, and stuff like that, and the dot system, and obliterated all the dice from the game. Complete domination of my style over the game.
It was Amber with the resource mechanic.
Absolutely. It absolutely was. And everyone who I was playing with loved it.
Because they liked Amber.
Right. But they had all played Amber.
So now they're playing vampires in a city, which is basically like Amber.
They're just playing like lesser powered Amber.
Amberites.
Yeah. And they're actually playing more rules. Wait, they're playing more rules Amber.
Yeah, I never put that together in my head before.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't know the timeline, but now that
Right.
I do, it makes perfect
Well,
sense.
think about it this way. It's going in two directions, right? So you're playing less powerful Amberites, but more structured Amber.
Yeah, I like that you decided that you were an indie gamer, like before you knew you were an indie gamer.
I didn't know what I was. Like, I was just like, I was doing a thing. So anyway, you can just dominate it. And that's fine. Just outright, utter domination of the system and just do what you want. And this is where, back to the original discussion about Hydro Hackers, this was my fear, right? Was like, in the absence of giving you stuff to run, you're going to fill that void with you. And it'll work. It'll totally work.
In fact, it'd be a perfectly fine way to do it if you actually wanted to design the game with me, which is
Right.
not the intent.
Right. But it would totally work. But then your Hydro Hackers now is not the same as mine. And how do we get them all?
Yeah, then we'd have to work to mesh them.
Right. How do we get them all back together?
Which is a perfectly valid way to do a thing. It's just not the way that we're doing this thing.
Absolutely. Right. So that is, all right. So domination is fine. You can just do that. The other way is you can suppress your own style.
Yes, you can.
You can just be like, I'm going to run this the way the designer intended, for better or for worse.
Yeah. And now this can be harder to do because it doesn't groove with you, but it's also a nice learning experience if you want to get into it. Like,
Oh, yeah, 'cause-
if you delve into it, then you'll learn something completely new.
Oh, absolutely. Like, for instance, we got a request by email, you and I, that somebody nearby wanted to play Palladium.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness.
Correct. And I was like, I want to do it because I'm pretty sure that in the 80s, I did not run that game the way it was written because I was 16.
We still should do that. Like, that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
thing we should do. I don't know when we're going to do it, but
No, I don't know when we're going to do it, but if I'm going to run it, I'm going to go back and read it and run it as intended.
Yeah.
Like, I want to feel how borked that game is. Like, I'm pretty sure it's not as smooth as I ran it because I think I simplified some rules and I don't remember. So you can just do that. You could just be like, look, this isn't my cup of tea, but I'm not going to run it like I run games. I'm going to learn. Like, this is a learning experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm going to learn.
that's a great way to look at it if the style that is your style does not fit with the game.
Yeah. So what do you think? What's a game like you would like? What's a game that would run counter to you?
I can think of a single game that runs counter to what I would like because I don't know any games like there are no games that I played that run super counter to my my shtick. Like,
have you like looked at one? Like have you seen like a game up and been like, I could not run that game? And not the, of course I could run it because you could do the other thing, but
Well, no.
if I ran it as intended, I wouldn't enjoy this game.
I don't know of any game offhand. I imagine any war story game or crime story game doesn't work well for me. Like, I had a hard time with Acton Cthulhu because I'm not super well versed in World War II. But that's because of not because of the mechanics or that doesn't jive with me, but it's because of the tropes.
No, but that's a style thing. That's a style that the design intent for that game is to play a World War II story.
But it's also designed to be pulpy over the top action, which is really in my wheelhouse. But my problem is with a lot of games is because I try to run everything, right? Like I can do OSR, no problem. Like it's a thing that I'm actually pretty good at. I can do the investigative conspiracy type game. I can do the sci-fi game. I can do the fantasy game. I mean, I have certain tendencies, but I can do all those tropes, right? I'm bad at crime stories, but I've never tried to run a crime story game, so I have no idea. And I also can't think of a crime story game that I've looked at the mechanics of.
The Hood?
I mean, I'd actually have an easier time running the Hood than I would playing the Hood.
Because it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game for starters.
Well, yeah, so it's easy, and that stuff is right there. So I can just see the tropes.
See, it's funny because I actually think that based on your childhood, that you actually could run the Hood really well.
I could because of what my father was.
Yeah. Like I feel like you could really get into what that setting's like.
I told you I wouldn't have any problem running Cartel, and I wouldn't have any problem. Cartel I might have a hard time with. There's a game that I might have a hard time with because I'm not really into like narco fiction, or any kind of crime fiction like that.
Yeah.
Right. Like the Hood though would be easy for me because I lived that life.
Yeah.
Like to run it, I don't want to play it because it's too close to home.
It's drifting a little close to home.
Triggery for me, but but most games. Because I like to look at the mechanics. I mean, I'm one of the people that thumps it really hard about running the game as intended. So like I read the game to figure out how it's intended, but there are games that I don't understand the tropes of. So those are the games that are hard for me to run.
Yes.
So like something like a crime drama would be hard for me. Like I'm not super into like The Sopranos. So I would have a hard time running a game like that. That's not my favorite genre of fiction. I don't understand it.
Which is funny because that actually borders closer to my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which then I become like really comfortable with. Like it's, there's well, that's an after show.
Yeah,
we'll talk about the after show. Okay.
The after show. So I can't think of a single game except maybe Cartel. Like I'll probably have a hard time with Cartel.
Yeah, I could see that. You had a hard time playing Cartel as well. You got into it at the end, though.
It wasn't it's not my cup of tea, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just played the Hood, and it was kind of close to the Hood.
Yeah. It's a little more amped up than the Hood, though.
Yeah, which was okay then for me because it was more
amped up.
So it felt a little bit more like a TV show than real life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, telenovela.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, that made it easier to play.
Yes.
All right, so how do we put all this... Oh, we didn't talk about you yet. We talked about me. What about you, man? What's a hard game for you to run?
DCC. I'm not a GM who kills players.
Yeah, I am when I'm playing OSR games.
Right. Like I mean, I get it and I appreciate the aesthetic. But it's not something that's normally my wheelhouse. Like I am like the first time I read Dungeon World and it was like, or Apocalypse World too, be a fan of the players. Mm-hmm. I was like, yes, this is my game. Like I am a fan of the players. Yeah. I've always been a fan of the players. And you've called me out on it that I run Fate too soft.
You do run Fate too soft.
I do. And, but I'm like I'm a fan of the players. And so that's a thing for me. And so I could run, like mechanically, I could learn DCC.
Hey, man.
Trope wise, I understand all the tropes of Gygaxian, OSR stuff and all that. I get it. But it's a thing where it's not going to mesh with me very well style-wise because it's not my style. I would have to just suppress my style and say, I'm just going to run this straight up OSR.
Mm-hmm. Remember when we played D&D the 5th edition the first time and Dave ran into the extra room and everybody died?
Yeah.
Like, you probably wouldn't have killed everybody.
I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, but
I would if
I sure did.
I would if the dice bared it out. But if I had an option to not attack or not chase someone down, that's where I don't do it.
I just murdered everybody.
You
because
did.
That's what the bad guys would have done.
Yeah, you did. But if you're like, my thing is like, if you're in a room and the dice are just going my way, mm-hmm. I can't do anything for you.
That's actually an OSR thing, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dice just dictate what happens.
I roll out in the open. Like,
yeah, and you get murdered.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why because I'm a fan of the players and because I'm soft on killing, games that don't have that mitigation mechanic, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, I like games like Savage Worlds because if I roll really well, you get a chance to not take that damage and die.
Sometimes.
You have bennies, you have rolls, like,
dude. If you get 9 wounds to you,
well, I mean, if I roll a 40, you're probably dead. Yeah. So anyway,
so buddy, how do we put all this stuff to use?
Yeah. So what's the point of this?
Yeah. What is the point?
We went long, and what the fuck is the point?
We talked a little bit about it. Like, I mean, especially when it comes to games that you're not don't mesh with your style. Like, you can learn a new style.
Right. So here's the thing. First of all, become aware of your style.
Yes.
Take some time. Ask your friends, think about it yourself, think about the games you've run, and get an idea of what your style is.
And there are some questions that you can ask yourself. You're like, what do you like? What kind of fictions do you like?
Yeah.
When you're playing a game, do you want to see the dice dictate what happens, or do you want to let people make hard choices?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's a thing with. I was talking to Randy Farmer the other day. Yesterday, in fact, and he was like, the difference between sort of OSR type gaming and story gaming is that, like, you have to ask for permission a lot of times to do a thing, or like you're like, I'm going to do this thing, and then you roll the dice.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like in story games, we'll like say a thing, we'll roll some dice, then we'll make some choices.
Yeah.
Like that's a difference.
Yep.
It's a huge difference. You're not locked in. You always have an extra out.
I would say think about the times you've been the most excited GMing, because those are things that are your style.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And think about the things where you're the least interested or least comfortable running, because
those are games that you don't enjoy.
Yeah, that's a hint of what you don't like.
Yeah. I'm much more aware of it because I've gotten so much of a chance to play with you folks about what I like and don't like as a player. But that is not the same as what I like and don't like as a game master.
Oh, no, not in the least, because what I like and don't like as a player is actually very different than what I GM.
And that's actually a very important distinction. Like, what you like as a player may not be the same thing you like as a game master.
Exactly. Then when it comes to games, figure out the designer's intent. Now, hopefully the designer has done you a solid and laid it out for you.
Yeah.
But if they haven't, you got to go digging.
This is actually a lot harder because sometimes, like, even I read games and I've read a lot of games, and sometimes something happens that I wasn't expecting.
Right. Right.
Like, there are sometimes emergent properties in games that the game designer is aware of that you are not, and you get blindsided by it.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes the playtesting has been done as like a whole series of one-shots, and emerging play comes out of like long campaign play.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, no one playtests their stuff extensively.
Unless you're 5th edition D&D.
Unless you're 5th edition D&D, have a giant, have like 20,000 people and a, whole bunch of stuff. But the rest of us play test to good enough. And so emergent properties is actually...
I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's probably the general truth.
Well, I'm not saying people don't play test, but...
No, you're talking about extensively, though. Like,
I guess what I'm saying is that I did a stint in software development, and part of my career was spent writing test plans. So, and part of my life was a scientist, coming up with, hypotheses and proving them. And permutations are like, a role-playing game is like an operating system. It's super complex. You can't just run it and actually test it. You actually have to unit test it if you really wanted to test things accurately. I don't want to get too far off on topic on this, but...
No, I think it's good. You should talk about it.
Right. So unit testing would be literally like, we're just going to check this mechanic. Like, if I gave you a character sheet, like, we're going to play test Hydra hackers.
Sure.
And I'm going to give out the playbooks. And then I'm going to be like, make some characters. If you don't pick one of those moves, I don't get that tested until sometime when that move gets picked.
It's true.
Whereas unit testing would be, we're going to play 6 sessions of Hydro hackers
with these moves.
And in session 1, the only move you have is this move. And in session 2, the only move you have is the second move. And I'll force every move. Or we're going to play a game and everyone has to use every basic move.
Yeah, you will choose all of the options.
Right. So unit testing versus whole system testing is very different. And testing it in one-shots or small arcs versus large campaigns is also very different.
It's true.
And there's only so much testing you can get done. before you need to put this thing to market and actually make some money on it. And I don't think game designers do a terrible job, but I don't think it's possible to do a near perfect job.
Yeah, I don't think
I mean, truthfully, people don't do this for software either. Bob?
What?
Bob tests software.
I do.
I wrote.
And it's painful.
I mean, the software Bob tests, I wrote some of the initial test plans for, like, back in the day. Those test plans are
Probably
gone.
long gone, yeah.
So far gone. But yeah. So it can be really super intense. And we could possibly talk about playtesting in a future episode as we start to playtest Hydra Hackers. We could probably share some insights on that.
Yeah, because there's got to be a better way to do it.
Uh-huh. There are some ways to do it
than what you just described.
Yeah. I mean,
because I don't think that software development, I know that role-playing games look like giant software operating systems, but they're not.
Right. But here's the thing that D&D, well, I could argue that point.
I mean,
I don't want to yet,
yeah.
but I want to argue that point later. What D&D took advantage of is
a giant mass of people in 3 years.
Well, it's the room full of monkeys on typewriters, right? Like if I give this game out to 20,000 people to play test, I'm probably going to find most of my problems.
Mm-hmm.
But
and they still didn't.
Well, and there's still things that didn't work. But if I am an indie designer and I have my group, maybe I've got a couple of other groups playing, sampling size dictates that I'm going to miss a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, I think let's pin playtesting. We're not ready to talk about it yet because I want to actually do some more, but I would like to come back to that as a topic one day.
Ding.
Okay, cool. So anyway, if you've got to figure out the designer's intent and they didn't leave it for you on the front doorstep, what are some things that you could do?
So one thing you could do is see how many pages in the book are actually dedicated to a specific kind of play.
I think that's right. I think that's fair.
Yeah, like if you were looking up the investigative rules in Gumshoe, you could just see how much of that has compared to everything else.
Right, like it's big, which kind of tells you that.
Although it's weird because sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's misleading. Sometimes I think it can help. It's not definitive.
It can help. I really think the better way to do is like go and see what the game, like if they tell you what the game is about, like whatever the short pitch of the game is, and then go look at those rules that apply to that.
I mean, that's like trying to apply the 3 questions, right? Like, what is this game about?
Yeah.
How does it do it, and how do players get rewarded? Yeah, if you can piece those together, that helps.
D&D gets a lot of flack for it's about exploration in interaction and combat. There's not a lot of rules for interaction.
Yeah. What does that say then?
Nothing, because the stuff that goes with interaction works just fine.
Right, but it also then says that interaction is really more of a non-mechanical. It wants it dealt non-mechanically.
It is in some ways, but if you have to look deeper for that stuff, because the way that you can interact with the story, because what they're talking about with interaction is talking to people or interacting with the world. Yeah. And some of that stuff is buried in the character classes, and some of that stuff there's no like overt mechanics for it all the time, except for, the ones that are in the skill list.
But there are other games where that's very overt.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's just because of how, like, you need more of a procedural situation in combat than you do in a conversation for that particular game. Like, if you look at, if we look at a Power by the Apocalypse game, all the stuff is about the conversation. So the conversation just happens to let you trigger something and you make some choices. Like, all the rules work that way. So that's a strange thing about design. Like, you can look at the page count, but it doesn't always tell the complete story.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, I've seen cases where, like, I've done this for games where I've gone through and kind of counted the number of pages, and like, for instance, 3rd edition, the combat chapter is like the biggest chapter aside from magic, right? Like a magic, because every spell has to get a list, but the actual how to do magic rules are fairly tiny.
Yeah, but that just tells you that magic's a really important portion of the game.
Yep.
Although that depends on what that game is actually trying to do. Like, it's a simulation engine, so you have to have all these different magic spells, and they all do all sorts of different things. Like, some of them are for charming people, some of them are for getting places. So that's exploration. That's transport. Like, it's not all just blowing shit up. It's a really tricky thing. Like, I think
this is the problem, right?
Yeah.
Like this is why designers need to be overt.
Yes.
Because if you are not overt and I misread what your game is about, my mileage is going to vary. I may run your game, I'm going to use quotes here, incorrectly, and then be like, this game sucks.
Yep.
Because I didn't get what you were trying to accomplish here.
And really, it was just the book.
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
presentation of the information.
Yeah, I mean, the mechanics may have been fine, but I was trying to run a completely different game.
Yeah.
So, but do your best and poke around, ask other people.
Yeah.
Read blogs, read reviews, go into forums, that kind of thing. Anyway, it can be found.
Yeah, like Vampire the Masquerade. Let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
The mechanics for humanity and how you apply that. Like when you get down to like 3 or 4 humanity, like you're not out of the game, but you're pretty terrible as a vampire. But it's not like really harming you.
No. In fact, I have in the past. So as a GM, I started to impose my own stuff on that. Like you get down low enough and I start messing with you. Like you start hallucinating, like ghosts of all the dead things you've killed.
Sure didn't tell you to do that though.
Sure didn't tell me to do that. It just, you know,
good on you for doing it. Cause that's what the game is actually supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time where Gilgore's character bottomed out at 2 humanity. And I had a talk with him before the game. I was like, look, you're about to go out. Like, and if that's what you want, like if you want Callie to go feral and hunted down and killed and make a new character, tell me right now. And he was like, no. He's like, I should somehow come back from this. And so in the story, like his character, I started messing with her and she started having hallucinations and all this stuff. And he used it to kind of come back around.
Yeah.
But it was a moment where it was like, mechanically, I'm taking this character out in a second. Like we're one atrocity away from from me taking your character sheet.
I thought the atrocity humanity level in Vampire was poorly written.
It's not good.
Like how far you can go down and what you have to do to keep getting lower.
It's bad. Here, let me tell you the other thing it does that I think is bad is that for immature players, it's like a list of dares.
It's that too.
Like it basically says like, well, you're only so bad if you fall here, but you could be really bad.
Man, it would be so much better if like every time you dropped on the humanity track, like at some point, like because like 6-7 is where you kind of are.
Yeah, well, because you got to do some bad shit as a vampire.
You're a vampire.
Yeah, 6-7 is a place you need to be comfortable.
Yeah, like but when you get below that is when like you should start having bad things happen to you, either narratively or mechanically or both.
Yes. I did as Sean's humanity. Again, this wasn't in the rules, but as Sean's humanity plummeted, the vampires with higher humanity started to regard him as more of a threat or danger. Like he's getting more feral.
That's a good thing to do. People that you were close to in real life start regarding you.
Those people are like
they start regarding you more terribly.
Yes.
Maybe some of your social skills start declining because you're just not as good at that anymore, especially where it concerns human beings.
The other thing I did was
making it harder for you to hunt.
The other thing I did was I started describing things different.
Subtly anyway.
Like I started describing things in terms of prey.
Nice.
Like cattle. Mm-hmm. Like like you're walking down the street through a herd of cattle.
You start thinking you're above them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because it starts like
messing with your head.
Yeah. Because you're losing it to the beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway. Lastly, just to kind of put a wrap up on this thing. If you realize that the game doesn't match your style, then make a decision. Are you going to just dominate it with your style, or are you going to take a moment and suppress your style and actually try to learn something new? And there's value in that.
Yeah, make those choices.
Yeah.
Like, be conscious of it. Like, just keep these things in mind.
And you know what? That actually goes to player expectations. If you're going to plan to come in and impose your style over the design of the game, tell your players that. They're probably going to want to know because they've also read the rules probably, and maybe shocked and horrified by what you're doing.
Yeah, maybe.
So it doesn't hurt. Have that talk.
Seems like a good idea.
All right, man. You want to stagger out of this room?
Well, no, we got to go to the chat room for life first.
Oh, okay. One last time into the chat room.
Oh, this gang is the best.
One, they're smart.
Period.
So they're probably
the
telling
best.
me I'm wrong.
Literally. These people are more fun than I could even ever describe.
Are you holding back the laughter over there?
No, I.
Well, me and Phil are talking about how vampires should be fixed.
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole thing where everybody went off on a BDSM tangent.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, there was a thing. Off topic or out of context quote for the night. You're going to fill that void with you, DNA Phil. Ange said, there are actually games at both ends of the spectrum that I don't think I could run. There are heavy crunch games that I just have no interest in mastering, but there are also some indie story games that are just a little further out from the narrative I want in RPGs than I am willing to attempt. Which,
That's fair. Yeah.
very fair. And somebody had asked Jim McClure if L5R does a good job of evoking the setting and doing its thing.
We asked that question last week.
Yeah.
And he said no.
But from the perspective of did they write the stuff in the book to get it across to you?
I think specifically our question to Jim was, does L5R do a good job of prepping you as a GM to run it? And I think he said no.
Yeah.
Does it have an evocative setting that you can
That would be
digest?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said,
That's why I can't leave that book alone.
I think the L5R rules do support the setting of the game amazingly well if they did not mess up one of the core functions that tie them together. Which,
sweet.
And these guys are. We're talking about trying to do a misdirected Mark gaming cruise.
Oh yeah,
an RV tour.
I actually brought back up MMCon again.
MMCon, yeah.
I don't think I asked Senda to explain it, but I don't think she explained it to everybody. I will explain MMCon briefly. MMCon was my idea of private misdirected MarkCon, but the idea was not to get a convention space or hotel, but to get something like cabins or like a big cabin, and combine gaming and cooking, like have people come and cook like the things they like to cook for everyone.
How many people do you think we get to come out to that? 50?
I mean,
we just put a 50-person limit on it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to be semi-small.
Yeah,
but like Letchworth, like some of those like camping spots in Letchworth, like especially some of the new ones that they've done, where you can get like the big bunkhouse kind of thing.
Yeah,
like that's like
totally a thing, man.
Yeah, and the idea would be literally just we come, we game, and then we all dine together. Like games end at mealtime, and everybody comes together to eat.
Yep. All right.
Allegheny, sorry, that's what it wasn't. It wasn't Letchworth. Allegheny, I was thinking about.
Yeah, we could always do Letchworth too.
But I mean,
they have stuff that way too.
I mean, I don't want to be flippant about this. Like, I would seriously contemplate 50 people 50 people is a very manageable.
Yeah.
It's a very manageable thing.
We just figure out where. We're going to do this right here live. We just figure out where, we put it up, we limit it to 50 people who want to be involved, and then we
make a group out of it and discuss it and plan it and do it.
Mm-hmm. We have to figure out who we should pick the core people and then open up to whoever's left that is just part of the community.
Yeah.
Right? Like people, because it'll cost money. Like it's
gonna cost money.
Yeah.
But I think like a 3-day weekend thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's a good idea.
I'm gonna hit this next button. Think about that, everybody. We'll work on it. There's coins. So many coins. Coins everywhere. Why are there so many coins? They're gonna roll in the back. So I'm just turn them off. Just turn them off.
We're done with that.
Done with the coins. Yep. No more coins.
Yep.
So the weight loss challenge. Because it's weight loss challenge time.
Oh, I totally didn't weigh myself.
I didn't weigh myself this morning.
You know what I did?
Either.
I changed a fucking tire this morning. That's what I did.
Happens.
Yeah, it does.
What about you, Ben?
I did my normal Sunday weigh-in. I'm up now officially just under 10 pounds from the goal weight. I'm at 194.6.
Oh, no.
Oh, we got to... I mean, all three of us need like an intervention.
Yeah, I need an intervention myself, too.
I feel like somebody's been feeding us. Like, we've been getting fattened up here.
Bacon King.
Don't even care. I think it's wonderful.
Yep.
Don't even care. I think that food is wonderful. I'm going to get yelled at if I don't say that. Anyways, Chris Shorb, he comes in at 217.8. His goal is 203. He's on the roller coaster. That's okay. Randy Farmer, he's at 259. He's plus a pound for the week, breaking his 3-month trend of loss. And as he feared, his anniversary birthday weekend tripped him up, but he's doubling down. Rob Whitaker, 198.2, up about a pound from last week. At it after a run, I sweat enough to drop down to 194. Scared to think about losing that much water. Wow, that's a lot of water weight right there. Good job though, Rob. Like good job on going on for that run. Matt Bonhoff, 226 this week. He had the right amount of change, but in the wrong direction. Bob said pluses for effort, everyone. Scott Robinson, I'm still pretty much stuck around 225, recently as low as 224, though I thought I was doing better, but the scale was stuck against the wall for about 3 pounds. Hoping to hit my goal of 215. That's only 10 pounds. You can do that. No problem. It's only the holidays coming. The holidays. Dun, dun, dun. Troy Taylor, on the go the entire week, and I ate like it. Call me Mr. Drive-Thru. Gained 4 pounds. Hopefully I'll get to eat at home this week. PK, 243 flat this morning. The past month's been a shit show. Got sick over the weekend and had absolutely zero exercise. David Walker, hi all. 207 is his goal. His current is 206. His change is 0. He said, hang in there, guys. Bad weeks happen. We can push through. See everyone with better numbers next week. And then Randy Farmer, he came in and said, this week seems like a low... This week seems a lot like the low point in a story/movie. The heroes face a setback, but we know they will rally. Let's rally.
We can rally.
We're going to rally.
You're going to rally.
I need to get a scale. I don't actually have a scale in my house.
That would be a problem.
Yeah.
You can borrow mine. Like, you can come over and use mine.
Okay, I'll do that on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Sean Gilgore finally broke 270. He's down to 268.5. He's 3.5 pounds away.
That's awesome.
Yep.
His appetite has not been the same, and he's not sure why, but he's not snacking as much. He's starting to feel like the fat is coming off in places.
You know, that happened to me when I had my first big loss. Like, I used to snack all the time. I almost never snack now.
Oh, nice.
Like, I can really just hit 3 meals and just kind of be done with it.
Well, that's good.
I mean, I think that's why, in the absence of actually trying to lose weight, I actually leveled out. Like, I don't power through a bunch of stuff unless I'm like really mad. We're having talks about that in therapy.
Oh, that's
like,
good.
do not eat for control.
Yeah.
Like, there are better ways to exert control.
All right. That's good though that Sean lost weight because the rest of us.
Yeah, good job, Sean. Thanks for keeping it up.
Keeping it up, man. Oh man. All right. Community chatter. Jeremy Downey, I've been patiently waiting for your Kung Fu episode, but in the meantime, how well do you think Unbound will work for Kung Fu? Phil?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, it's a combat system, and it's got like a feat-like thing, so I think it's going to do okay. It's not going to simulate Kung Fu. Like, could you play Kung Fu Story with this? Yeah, you could, but it's going to play like Unbound, doing Kung Fu. Like, I think you probably want something more like Feng Shui.
I keep thinking about this thing, and I keep getting caught up with the idea that the cool thing about Kung Fu movies is the visual effect.
So the cool thing about Kung Fu movies is the same problem that fencing and lightsaber fights have.
Yes, it's the
interplay back and forth, all of that.
Yeah.
Which systems don't do.
They don't.
And that's the thing. Like, when we talk,
they do, but they don't do it. They don't do it excitingly.
No.
Or in a way that's narratively compelling.
No, and this is the problem, right? Like, this is what the gumshoe of Kung Fu needs to solve.
The gumshoe of Kung Fu needs to solve this.
Yeah. Anyway, that is, I think, the beginnings of how I'm going to talk about the martial arts episode. Is that martial arts? I know what game I need to read now. I know what game I need to read because now I think I understand how I want to explain the martial arts problem. I need to go read Worldwide Wrestling.
Oh, because it's not about wrestling. It's about all the story that takes place with wrestling.
But you still act out the wrestling in the ring.
A little bit.
Yeah, but I want to see how that part goes because that's the interplay.
Yeah, that whole thing is about getting the crowd on your side and pulling off the best show possible.
Right, but I could abstract that same idea to getting enough momentum to win a fight versus,
you can't because you have to work together in order to get that.
So it doesn't work exactly like that.
No.
But I want to see how they handle the moves because
that would help.
Because they don't there isn't a Boston Crab move. No. But the Boston Crab can come up in the narrative of telling what happens in the ring.
Sure, and that means that you need to have a whole bunch of like styles and things like that for people to read and understand, because otherwise you can't have that descriptive back and forth.
This is
like sword fighting. If you read, I'm gonna do this thing. If you read Salvatore's Drist novels, when Drist and Artemis and Terry fight, those fights are actually compelling on the page.
Right.
Like, I enjoy them.
Go get second edition and go do that fight.
You can't.
Exactly.
No. Right.
Like, yeah, but the description of that is what I'm talking about. Like, how do you get that to work in a game?
Yes.
Like,
and that's the, I mean,
because it works on the page. It's not just a visual effect then. Like, that's it's written down.
Right. I think the episode I want to have, which isn't exactly the martial arts episode, is the dramatic fighting episode. How do you simulate dramatic fighting in a game? Because Errol Flynn, Robin Hood, or the Crimson Pirate, or
so much of our Airy Peaks game is dramatic fighting.
Right. Neo and the agent in the subway.
Yeah.
Like, that fight scene is insane.
It's
and
cool.
It would suck using most systems.
Yeah, because it's hard to describe that stuff. And really what's going on there is the emotional the willpower that he's using to get through it,
Right.
and not the skill. Like D'Artagnan fighting a bunch of Cardinals guards is just about D'Artagnan kicking a bunch of Cardinals guards' butts all over the place.
Right.
But when he's fighting, what's his name at the end?
Yes.
It's about will and
Are you talking about the Disney one?
yeah.
Oh, fuck, I love that movie.
Wait,
Wait,
no.
can we just have a shout out?
I'm sorry, I'm not talking about Disney one. I was talking about the steampunk one, but the Disney.
Oh,
one
the
works well, too.
steampunk one's all right, but can we all just go on record here that the Disney version of Three Musketeers is like just
Brilliant.
so amazingly awesome?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's great because
Can I get a shout out, chat room?
excellent acting. I mean, I like that Musketeer movie a lot too.
Oh, I like the
'Cause
Musketeer.
That is like it's like a Wuxie movie with.
Oh, the Musketeer movie's fantastic, right?
I'm sorry, it's like a wushu movie with sword fighting, man.
and airships and
No, just the Musketeer.
oh, the Musketeer, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
But
There's the
that's
Musketeer.
an action movie, just like
Right. There's the Musketeer, the Three Musketeers, and then what was that last one with the fucking airships?
I don't know, but I like that one.
But that
a lot
one was
too.
that one was
The
badass.
sword fighting in that is
I'm gonna
top
I'm
notch.
watching those. I'm gonna go watch those.
But the last fight in that,
Yeah.
when they're fighting on the church after the ship crashes, he's getting his butt kicked all over the place until the very end when he does some cool stuff. But it's not really about the cool stuff that he is. It's about his will and desire overcoming the problem. I mean, his skill too, but I mean that's not the story that they're actually trying to tell. Was the skill? It's the will and the need, and of course the story beat of you just win at the end because you're the good guy.
Yes. Anyway, the point being, dramatic combat is the topic that we really need to have. And how do games, and I feel like I need to go find some games, but how do games do it? Who does it well? Who doesn't do it well?
Yeah, well, you have to
because
ask the question: what does it even mean, dramatic combat?
right, but if you can solve that problem, you have solved the martial arts fight. You have solved the fencing, the lightsaber battle, all of those.
Yeah, because the fight isn't about your skill; it's about who's right and who's wrong.
Right, but then it's also at the same time, how do
ideology.
you make the descriptions?
Yeah, how do you get the description of that ideology
Yes.
across?
Yes.
Like the lightsaber fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan, as terrible as the end of it is, like it's about like you were my brother.
Oh, I mean the last moments are that whole thing, right? Like where he's yelling at him, "You're the chosen one."
Yeah. But I mean, while that fight doesn't do it well, that fight is about the story of their friendship
Oh, yeah.
going wrong. Like they are evenly matched. They know each other really well. They beat on each other constantly.
Yes.
At one point, Anakin's cut off hand, which means something, is the thing that gives him the advantage in the fight.
Yep.
Like those things are the things that matter, which is probably why, like, if you think about a single moment or about Reflections, like the end of Reflections does that stuff really well. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. That might actually be your answer.
Well, yeah.
Because all of the stuff leads up to that last fight, which has the dramatic dice thing to it with Reflections. Like, it'd be better if it was a bit. Okay.
Can I tell you a thing I'm just now putting together in my head, and
Sure.
I don't know if it's good or not. I think it would be neat, and I'll use fencing as my idea. I think it would be neat if you had a handful of cards of offensive and defensive moves, and there's a pool that it's like a tug of war mechanic where you play a card and I try to parry it, and then I play a card and you try to and like as we do that, this pool is getting like pulled towards me or pushed towards you, and at some point it becomes mine and I seize the narrative control of the fight and dictate its outcome.
Isn't that Reflections?
Yeah, but like it's done. That's
Isn't
done over scenes. I'm talking about like with these cards.
The
like
last sequence of Reflections is like a single die roll, but like in a single moment, there's like you're rolling multiple.
yeah,
times.
but that's like story.
No,
I'm talking
but
about
the last scene in a single moment is that mechanic.
Yeah, but I want to do it like I'm picturing like cards with moves, and because then you're saying the things like you're saying like
using the cards as narrative launching points.
Exactly, you're using the cards as narrative points, but they have this mechanical influence that's pushing and like that's doing this tug of war thing.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, like I think that would be cool. Like I think a Musketeer game like that would be fun. That like when you square off against the NPC, like out come the cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a macro mechanic where it's like when you're just slaughtering cardinal guards, make a roll and tell me how cool it is. But when you drop into this narratively important combat, let's play these cards and have this, thing. And as people are talking about the Princess Bride, honestly, you could have, like
every single one of those encounters between
this is Capifera, like
well that also the wrestling maneuver, the wrestling thing with Andre the Giant, and the clever thing at the end with in the middle of that with Vincere, whatever the hell his name is.
Vicini.
Vicini. Like, that's even a duel of wits.
Well, that's a duel of wits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can use this. You can still use the cards for it.
Yeah. I mean, there's some prep and stuff, but I would kind of dig those.
All you gotta do is figure out how to genericize the cards so that they can be used that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all awesome.
Bob's like,
But we should probably wrap this thing up.
People like it when we get on
I
tangents.
know they do, but we can only do it for so long.
That's true.
that's true.
Somebody's got to be the voice of reason here.
We got to cut some stuff somewhere.
Why it got to be me?
Because that's what you're there for, man.
You're the heavy man.
All right.
Right.
Let me skip down through some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Did I have a thing in there aside from that? Oh, what? Okay.
Jeez, I thought you said somewhere you were going short on something.
Oh, no.
Jeez,
Here.
man.
So here's some feedback from episode 229. I thought there was some other stuff in there. Fraser Simmons. He said he'd love to play test it sometime. That's in reference to H2O.
Yep.
Cyberpunk usually gets him every time.
By the way, I did get a number of people who
Wanted to play
emailed me or pinged me, and I'll put that out again, listeners. If you have any interest in Hydra Hackers, over time I will be building groups and running it online.
And Fraser Simons, he said he agrees that Buffy is fantastic to learn pacing. Good thoughts that past episode. He also mentioned he gets those feels as well, Phil, and he hopes that things improve for you, and that it seems like you have a good support system around you for that.
I do have a good support system. You guys are fantastic.
He also corrected my pronunciation. His name is Simmons, like Simon, or it's Simons, like Simon Says, but with an S at the end. Simons. His name is Simons. Fraser Simons.
There we go. Okay, I didn't know that either.
Sorry about that.
I mean, listen, we're going to butcher some names.
Yep. Also, anytime you want to play Young at Heart, let me know. I'm going to play it on Party of One podcast really soon as well, or The Veil, of course.
Yes, the Veil.
So, Young at Heart, it's a baseball game, and Fraser can correct me if I'm wrong, where everyone plays the pitcher, and it probably, as a guest, feels a lot like the movie For the Love of the Game with Kevin Costner.
Okay, yeah,
I want
yeah.
to play it real bad because there's not very many good sports
games? No,
RPGs
you're
out
right.
there, and I would love to
If
play
it's
that.
got to feel like that, I love that movie.
I know, me too.
I would totally play that game.
All right, Avi, his comments on following up this episode. His obvious follow-up questions are, and you might want to start pinning some of these, buddy. Can you help us to pull our sessions into stories with beginnings that raise questions, try-fail cycles, and then rest points that resolve questions, either finally or raising new questions? Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that before, but we can talk about it again. Can you help us to stitch stories together into arcs that either branch, split, and rejoin, or linearly fit together? It's a good question. What are the differences between stories that are at the beginning, middle, or end of an arc? And are there differences between stories that resolve questions about a character versus stories that resolve questions about plot? Is that even a meaningful distinction? And how do you mix them together in a compelling way? I feel like it's a whole nother episode.
Oh, I can't even, like
that's a whole nother episode.
I'm looking at the clock.
You got to
We
give me
can't-
something to write for the pain.
No,
for
you
the
just
pin for that.
copy this chunk
and put it in the pin.
and put it in the pin thing, because we'll just take it out and
there's one more because Toby sent it to one of our newer patrons. He said, well, one, this was useful to him, and he had a question based on V's post above. How do you impel a gaming group into the fail part of the cycle? What do you do when the dice are hot, when the plan is sharp, and the opposition
great.
is
That's a
really
great
realistically
question.
outclassed? So
That's
that goes in the pin too.
yeah, that's a great question, because that that's just brutal. Like, you're like, I'm gonna make a fail cycle 20. Fuck.
Yeah, see, you don't actually construct the fail cycle. I mean, you just look for it, like it's a feel thing. But we'll get into that in a future episode. I think it's a great future episode. I will explain it because I just took opportunities for the fail cycle with people like Phil and Bob and such when things didn't go right. That's why Apocalypse World's so great. That's 7 to 9. It's so good for the fail part. Like, you get what you want with the fail. So Avi again on nomenclature. So he said this: if I understand correctly, then an arc is one or more stories and a campaign is one or more arcs. A short campaign is one arc. Therefore, a one-shot is a special case of a short campaign. This nomenclature seems very sensible, but it does fly in the face of Bob's sensible response. Isn't a one-shot a single session? Not necessarily using these definitions. In fact, I think I've run more than one multi-session one-shot and possibly a single-session short campaign, although that's harder to pin down due to the fractal nature of the story definition.
Yeah,
It gets a little messy.
it gets messy.
It gets messy.
It does get messy. I mean, I think ideally the perfect one shot is one story, one session.
Yes.
And then I think there's some wiggle room that's one story, but I didn't get all of it done and I finished it like in 1 or 2 sessions.
Yeah.
But then that gets kind of really close to what's a small arc.
Yeah, I mean, I can go with the hard definition of a single session is just one session. A one shot is a single session.
I think the perfect one shot is one session.
Yeah.
But like, for instance, my Daytona Nights was a one shot.
Yes.
It was just a story, but we were screwing around so much at the table and laughing so hard at the ultimate 80s-ness of our setting that it took us like three times to get through it.
Maybe one shot is the wrong term to use because it's a measure of time. And I don't know if arc and campaign are actually measures of time so much as measures of story structure.
Yeah. Good. Whoa.
Ah.
Whoa, unagi.
Salmon spring roll.
Oh, it's funny. Rob Whitaker said, I think of a one-shot as a single session. Not sure why. I guess I would call a single story that spans 2 or more sessions a story or adventure.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I mean.
That's what we're hitting.
Yeah.
All right. Last bit of feedback from last episode. Chris Shorb on Startup. By the way, all this feedback I got from the community. So if you're not in the G Plus community, maybe you should be there.
Be in the G Plus community.
Yeah, because that's where I get most of the stuff from.
Yes, be there.
And post your comments on the actual episode that I post in there.
Yes, that helps immensely.
That's where I get all.
I mean,
this stuff
sometimes
from.
we find them also as you put them in as separate topics, but just go in and comment.
Yeah. Chris Shorb on Startup. I think it was this episode where Phil Vecchione said Startup podcast was on his must listen list. Yeah, it's funny. I listen to Planet Money podcast regularly, and I remember, and in fact, was just thinking about the guy from that show who dropped off of a nice NPR crew to start his own
Alex.
business. Yep. But until then, I never heard about him again. Until now. Thanks, guys. Another podcast on my feed, just as I was getting caught up too.
Oh my God, it's so good too.
Startup's great so far this year. There's been 2 episodes. So good.
Yeah, it's I love when they do the longer stuff too. Like last season they did a bunch of small stories and some of them were interesting, but the 2 seasons before that where they actually just followed like a company like all the way through their woes.
Yep.
Like I got really caught up into that.
This season, it looks like it's 10 episodes. There's a 3-parter about Gimlet to begin with.
Yep. Ooh.
Which is updating what's going on with them.
Yep.
And then there's a 7-parter about another company.
I actually like that because the original season of Startup is all about Gimlet.
Yep.
And so it's nice that they do a couple episodes to kind of keep you up to what's still happening.
They do branded podcasting. And they turned down a contract from the Defense Department.
That was a very interesting story, right?
Department of Defense.
Right.
It was a very interesting story.
Very interesting story about how they came to that decision and left
$500,000 contract.
Left money on the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Good stuff.
Time for the Indie Game Developer Network Spotlight. Bluebeard's Bride, which that launched today. It is already way past its funding goal. It's hitting stretch goals all over the place. So the overview, you must have hit the microphone, didn't you? And now you're putting your hands on your head. That's funny. So everybody at home, sometimes when Phil or Senda hit the microphone when they're recording Pandas Talking Games, one of them tells the other one to put their hands on the head. So Phil was waving his hands around, hit the microphone. Now he's put his hands on his head. All right, overview.
I got yelled at in the chat room.
That's
all
funny.
in caps.
Bluebeard's Bride is an investigatory horror tabletop role-playing game for 3 to 5 players, written by and designed by Whitney Strix Beltran, Marissa Kelly, and Sarah Richardson, and is based on the Bluebeard fairy tale. So what do you do in this game? In this game, you and your friends explore Bluebeard's home as the bride, creating your own beautifully tragic version of the dark fairy tale. Investigate rooms, discover the truth of what happened, experience the nightmarish phantasmagoria of this broken place, and decide whether or not you are faithful or a disloyal bride. Mechanics. Bluebeard's Bride is based on Powered by the Apocalypse. You know, that game that we talk about all the time?
That seems familiar. I've heard it once or twice.
Once or twice. It's a simple system where your character takes an action that fits a move. The move tells you what happens, or you roll 2d6 to find out. Since this is a horror game, we have modified it so that the majority of the moves use no dice. This harkens back to telling ghost stories around the fire. Influences and feel. Bluebeard's Bride produces adult feminine horror fiction like Crimson Peak, American Horror Story, or The Company of Wolves, making it fun for horror fans and dark fairy tale fans alike. And the Powered by the Apocalypse system gives Bluebeard's Bride the strong yet flexible system necessary to tell your own flavor of horror. So that's Bluebeard's Bride. It's going on right now. I backed it.
It's funny. I put it on the watch list for 2 things. One, I'm not 100% sure I will run this game.
No, but I will.
I have listened to the APs for it, so I'm very familiar what goes on in the game.
Yeah.
And I thought the APs were incredibly interesting.
Yeah,
like I actually
horrifically graphic at times.
Yeah, I mean, I thoroughly loved the Jank. I think most people have heard the one-shot one, but Jank did a Bluebeard's Bride. And the reason I say that is because I love Megan, and
She's great.
Listening to Megan play this game was amazing. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to run this game.
They were probably being more terrible than the one shot. I haven't heard the jank one.
No, the jank one's really graphic. Like
yeah,
it's
the like in the one shot one, Kat and James were actually trying to be heroic in some ways.
Go listen to the jank one. I think you'll really like it.
I probably will.
I mean, Megan and those guys, they play it really well. And so I'm watching it because one, I don't know if I'm going to run it.
Did Sarah Richardson run for the jank house?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And two, if I do back this, I feel like I got to go fairly big. Like
$50 book.
I feel like I can't go PDF if I'm actually gonna back it with any intent to play or run it. Then I want all this stuff.
I will say it's an expensive buy-in for the hardcover.
It is.
It's not that. I mean, it's a bigger book. The second book is the bigger book, but I think it costs more to get both books because there's a book of rooms. There's also a deck of cards that comes with the game that has interesting items in the rooms, which is part of the game.
I mean,
but it's a 96-page hardcover.
I will say this,
but it's beautiful.
I will say this. I am in full support of this game.
Yeah, me too.
And I may just back it, even at the PDF level, just to show my love for this game. Even if I never run it.
Yeah. Cool things going on right now in gaming. Like the Swords and Wizardry Kickstarter is going on right now.
Yep.
I mean, that's an all female team.
Yep.
Doing like the layout and the art for it and the like all that the new stuff.
Yep.
And then this one, it's 3 female designers.
I mean, I seriously
people that I greatly respect as designers too. So
I seriously love this game. Like the AP of like I said, the listening to the AP, like I get it. I'm totally into this game. I seriously just don't know if I can run it.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense.
Which makes me wonder if
Which is weird because of how much you love terrible stuff.
I do, and I can't quite. I don't know.
This game will make me uncomfortable, which is why I want to run it.
This game will definitely make me uncomfortable.
And I always try to do things that make me uncomfortable.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, fantastic. It's blowing up like crazy, and that's awesome.
All right. Patreon shoutouts.
Please roll through the list, my friend.
You first, my friend.
Let's go with Eileen, graphic novel wife. Is it Canost? I feel like
Canost.
Yeah.
I was listening to her and the others on the Graphic Novelty podcast today talking about comic books.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's our first patron shout out, and thank you. She's very active in our chat room.
She is,
and on Twitter. So that's awesome. Thank you very much.
They had a great opening on their podcast today. They tried to spoof NPR.
Okay.
They tried to do an NPR opening. It did not work because when I believe Brandon Barnes is the other half of that. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that he's the one who runs the Graphic Novelty podcast. I think he did the NPR opening. It was when it was like, and Eileen, our anthropology expert, and then Eileen's like, I don't know what to do with this, and everybody just starts cracking up. It's great. They were doing the straight NPR open. It was wonderful. But Brandon Barnes, thank you so much. Regardless of whether you are or aren't the person who runs the Graphic Novelty podcast, I think you are. I'm not really sure. For being a patron of Mr. Hector Mark. The Knights of the Night Crew, Tom Flanagan and those folks. By the way, I have to buy you a drink at some point for Tom because he asked me to.
Oh, okay.
Because he came up with a great idea that he can't implement quite yet, which is there should be a way for people to just buy people drinks when they need them. Like from distance, like
some app, like
have
a drink,
app, like through Apple Pay or Google Wallet or something like that. I
feel like there's a market that is not getting fulfilled.
My question was like, how do you implement that though?
Yeah,
right. So like here's a drink for you, but you have to like attach it to a bar or something, or there's got to be some way to do it.
Yeah, you'd have to like home it to a bar. Yeah. Like there's a business model
because you're having a rough go of it, and you're just like, I just want to buy that guy a drink.
Yeah. So yes, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
David Walker, our superstar in the weight loss challenge, just losing all kinds of weight. Thank you so much for being a patron of Mr. Hector Mark Productions. And V. Thank you so much for being a patron of Mr. Hector Mark Productions.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the podcast roundup, which I don't have an intro for this thing yet because there's other things going on.
We need like a yeehaw.
Yeehaw! Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just steal that while I was talking over it. Can you do that again?
Yeah, yeehaw! Yeah, that's great with my whip sound.
Crack that whip.
Do you want a more realistic whip sound?
Maybe I'll just add in a whip sound.
Do you want a more realistic one?
I mean, I actually have the whip sound that they use for like Christmas Carol or Christmas tunes like
It's fine if you want to use a pre-recorded one.
No. I actually have the device to do it.
Oh, okay,
I can just Foley it up, man. Not a big deal.
Oh, gotcha.
Used to be a musician, playing orchestras and such. No, I don't want your real whip sounds. That's what I'm trying to say here without saying it.
I'm just going to wink at you.
Yep, just winking at me. All right, our shows. So what happened on Misdirected Mark Productions most recently? Advantage to Insight. They had Wayne had Alan Patrick on to talk about Ravenloft as a setting and continuing the setting run that he's doing.
Yep.
Down with D&D, me and Sean, we talked about the new encounter building rules in the Unearthed Arcana and chatted about tips from our grab bag. There's a bunch of talk about how we use magic items and how people can use magic items in games without them being ridiculous or breaking your game. Panda's Talking Games, what did you and Senda talk about?
Problem players.
Yeah?
Yeah. The uncomfortableness of what to do when you have a problem player.
Blow up my group.
That's the nuclear option. Well, this isn't working.
Blow that shit up.
Yep.
No, I'm just kidding.
We talked about some more subtle things than just that.
Threats from Gallifrey. Garrett chatted with Savage Tim Hannon, about what's going on over in the Savage World side of things. They talked a little bit about the QCC, and they had a full table on Savage Saturday Night.
Yep.
And the Deadlands Kickstarter.
Nice.
The other one, too, the Plot Point campaign and the Deadlands Noir Kickstarter, I believe. And then Cypher Speak with Darcy and Troy. They got into their favorite recursions from The Strange, which had a lot of Sherlock Holmes talk in there. So that was pretty fun. I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't listened to it yet. It came down on my catcher. I haven't got a chance to listen.
Did you listen to episode 109 of Gaming and BS?
On Tell Me the Topic. I'm current.
They talked about that wasn't Side Quest, was it? I have to look it up. Well, they talked about something.
And I listened because my newest one is whatchamacallit.
Well, 110 is the newest one. I haven't listened to that
Traps.
one yet.
I didn't listen to Traps.
Organizations in RPGs.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you tell me about it?
So they talked about organizations like Thieves Guilds and stuff like that, wizard conclaves and things like that, and how you could use them in your campaign, and, the ones like the classic ones that are like tied to class versus other organizations, and ways to leverage them. It was, I was making waffles. They were really going around about it.
Well, that's what they do.
Yeah. I mean, it was good. And I remember a lot of those things, right? Like Thieves Guild was like a thing, like that for me is like a first ed D&D thing. Like that's Druid Circle, Thieves Guild.
Did they talk about the Druid Circle? I
don't remember the Druid Circle.
Do you realize for the first time in like 70 episodes, I actually didn't listen to Gaming and BS before we had to talk about it?
Oh, no?
It just got lost in the shuffle of things.
Yeah, no, it was good.
I feel bad. I owe those guys now. Like, I'll have to listen to both of them like in the next day. And
I mean, I'm very interested in the one that just dropped today, the Traps one.
Yeah, I am too.
I got some feels and thoughts about Traps. So I'm curious to see how I line up with the boys on this.
It's a trap.
I mean, I feel like if they don't have one Admiral Akbar
reference,
quote, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't do it right.
It's a trap.
There you go.
It's a trap.
You guys are ridiculous. I'm not doing it.
That's how
germs get spread.
That's how Concrud starts.
Yeah,
but it didn't.
But it didn't. That's right. All right. So there was that. There was no talking tabletop today, or I didn't even see the Satanic Panic actual play. I was looking for it too.
Nothing came down on my catcher for it.
There's no She's a Super Geek this week.
Oh, there will be.
There will be.
In moments.
Senda,
when will She's a Super Geek drop? Because it might not have gotten loaded.
Yeah, you can tell everybody when it will be out after I give everybody my podcast list, because I listen to a ton of freaking podcasts.
Yeah, just don't worry. Give it a second. She'll tell you.
Well, I'm gonna start real quick.
Yeah,
so I listened to A Pillion from the Plus One Forward. I can't wait to play that.
I did. I listened to that.
I own it, so it's great.
Yeah,
like the game is
that was good.
Cool.
I thought Rich did a nice job with his dragon.
Yeah,
it was cute.
I listened to Elemental Drama from Writing Excuses. Aaron Evans talking about The Devil You Know on the Dragon Talk podcast. Aaron Evans is an author. She's been writing a character called Farida for a bunch of books now. I think 6. What else? Advantage to Insight, we just talked about that. I listened to the Jeff Barber Upwind interview on Talking Tabletop. That was really good. I listened to Kevin Smith and Mark Bernard talk about the full Luke Cage. They went over the entire show.
Oh, good God. I'm almost there.
Yeah, super good. This was an interesting one from Writing Excuses, too, for people who are interested in writing. The Editor's Wish List with editor Nava Wolf. So as an editor actually telling people what they want out of people who are writing. Yeah, it was cool. Scaling games, because Darcy and Troy were on there on the Modifier podcast about going big.
Sweet.
Yeah, so if you want to hear more Darcy and Troy, they were on the Modifier podcast. Trick or Treat from Lore, which they talked about. He told some stories about Halloween and things surrounding that. That was really cool. Of course, both of the episodes of Startup. Man, Startup is so good. I mean,
It's just good.
Yeah, just so solid. So if people aren't listening to Dakota Ring Theater, so there's the Red Panda Adventures, and they're doing this thing with these. I talked about it I think before, but they're doing these things where they're doing these moving comics, and they're like 8 minutes long, and they're audio drama too, and they're wonderful. I would highly recommend going and checking them out. They're pretty amazing. Yeah, and Have Spellbook Will Travel, episode 3-4, The Phylactery. So that is James Intercasso and Rudy Basso.
I know why Bob's laughing.
Okay, James Intercasso and Rudy Basso doing this comedy drama play podcast, which I had them on for an interview. If you're not listening to it, I don't know why. It's amazing. Like, you should just listen to it.
I got that lich of phylactery.
Liches love phylacteries.
Just love phylacteries. And then Welcome to Night Vale. I listened to that too. I listened to a lot of podcasts this week.
You did.
Whole bunches.
You did.
I'm now done.
Oh, jeez. All right, keep going.
I've also been listening to the Knights of the Night. No, I am now done.
Done. Okay.
I am now done. I've been listening to the Knights of the Nights too.
And just to catch up really quickly, she's a super geek. It'll drop probably tomorrow morning. There was a little bit of a fail in loading it up. I can tell you it is the last piece of Royal Blood. And tying into our QCC wrap-up and discussion about safety fails at the table, Senda and I actually put an epilogue on the show where the two of us talk for 10 to 15 minutes about kind of what happened and how everything is okay. Like, you know, in case people didn't understand, like, you and I are fine, and Senda and I and you, like, everybody's fine.
I mean, we're sitting right here talking.
Yeah, but if you don't listen to us,
how are you?
But we also talked about, you know, the thing about that's a table full of experienced GMs. Like, that was I mean, it can happen to anyone was like the theme. But anyway, it was good. It was a nice little chat to kind of cap off the end of that episode. So that's done.
Hey, I have to ask a question.
Yeah.
Bob?
Yeah.
Peanut butter and jelly, they go together, right?
No.
What is wrong with you?
Absolutely not.
We're
Peanut butter belongs with chocolate.
Hey,
that's it.
Oh,
Peanut
we're
butter
taking
and
this to the
chocolate.
after show.
Chat room. Tell Bob he's wrong, please. Thank you. Anything else going on in the chat room? Because that's pretty much it.
Other than Bob's immense wrongness about peanut butter and jelly,
Oh,
but that's it.
It's a lively bunch. I think we should just let it ride right into the after show here.
Sure, let's do that. Everybody, thank you so much for listening today.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 6:45 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with the other listeners in our awesome chat room for life. The literally spoon giving chat room for life.
Spoon giving chat room for life.
And occasionally just ask us questions.
Yeah, if you can't make it to the live show, you can always check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcast, but not on iTunes anymore, except from that one spot.
Oh, please, people, let's be clear. There's one feed.
There's now one feed.
There's one
on
feed.
iTunes. That's a thing now, which I'm going to bring up. If you could do us a favor and just go give us a review there.
Yeah, just drop us some stars, man.
Please. We could really use them. It'll help us and everybody else in the network rise up the charts and get noticed by everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. So you just look for Misdirected Mark Productions.
Okay, jump back into your
Yeah,
speech.
man. If you can take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Threats from Gallifrey Advantage to Insight, Pandas Talking Games, and Cypher Speak with Darcy and Troy, that would be great. You can and should also check out some of our brother and sister podcasts. She's a Super Geek, Talking Tabletop, or whenever the Satanic Panic AP comes out, that would be great to listen to that too. The Shrieker, which just had a new episode. I haven't gotten to it yet, but 1 year of The Shrieker, so congratulations. The Knights of the Knights, which are starting a new game called Clockwork Dominion, and the always amazing Gaming MBS.
After you have listened to our show, if you violently object to everything we say, including the fact that Bob is so heinously wrong about peanut butter and jelly.
Yes, especially that.
Feel free to leave us feedback at Chris@misdirectedmark.com.
That's me.
Phil at misdirectedmark.com.
That's him.
Or Bob at misdirectedmark.com.
Which won't redirect anywhere but to Bob now because I fixed it.
Correct.
So tell him how wrong he is about peanut butter and jelly. Please
Send him images of peanut butter and jelly
together.
Yes. And by all means, use your creativity in how you send those pictures to Bob.
Oh my God, that's awkward.
Hey, I'm just saying, Google it, and whatever comes out, send it to Bob.
That's not right.
You should probably not Google it.
Check out our Facebook group. Follow us on Twitter at DNA Phil, at Robert M. Everson, at Misdirected Mark, and at The Light 101.
Where you can probably get your smooth PMJ jazz all day long. Because we went and saw PMJ, and that was great.
We did. We didn't even talk about that.
Nope.
Jeez, after show. And as always, please come to our G Plus community, the hub, the hall of justice of our social media empire.
Our empire might not be the right term, but sure.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
At the Hall of Misdirected Mark.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. I have that.
I know you actually.
Yes, there we go.
We have that one. We are doing bad at the ending. This is like Senda and I trying to finish a
If
show.
you would like to be generous, you can back our Patreon and partake in the shoutouts and getting the pre-production show notes. This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Oh, I will say mic drop.
We out.
Doot, 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 doot.
Welcome to the after show.
The after show.
The after show.
Cleveland edition.
The highly abridged after show since it's 10:55. What the hell is
Jeez,
wrong
man.
with us?
I told you we were
How
going
did we get to 11 o'clock already?
Well,
Oh, man.
first of all, I told Chris that we were going long in the main show.
That's true.
And then he stuck the entire G Plus community into the notes.
I did not.
Chris, look how long it is,
It's
man.
not that long.
It's one page. It's like 3 pages.
People had a lot of good stuff to say. Man.
I know,
We
but I
went
told
bloody
you.
long.
I told you in advance the main part
Dude,
was
I
going
cut
long.
out the bag segment. I cut out the other Kickstarter segment. What do you
I'm
want?
Just saying.
Longest show ever.
It really was
Probably.
McClure. Is
that
all the
what he said?
BDSM talk pushing
Yeah,
it
that
along.
was what it was. It was the BDSM.
BDSM talk, pushing it over. There was a few hints to that in there.
There might have been some flogging talk.
Oh man,
There was a whole discussion about
Hang
the
on,
safe
I'm
word.
going upstairs.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a
You
second.
back in a second. Go get the flogger.
Yeah.
That's awkward. It's not really that.
I'm bringing
awkward.
down the bag.
As long as you're not hitting me with it, it's fine. And Bob, on the other hand, whatever you want. So,
I'll hit myself with it. Whatever.
oh, that's cool. Does that make you feel better?
I mean, it doesn't make me feel worse.
Oh, that's not right.
You know what you need on your
just
soundboard? You need the
happened?
rim shot. That's
But
what you
doing
need.
chink, yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I
you do need that.
You guys are killing me today.
Killing me,
Just
Smalls.
killing me, Smalls. Killing me. So, what does people want to know about?
Yeah. What's going on? After show. Yeah. Ask us
the
anything.
after show.
Yeah. What's
Oh, yeah,
going-
Matt, you definitely need to go back and listen to this. It's a good show.
It's a good.
Ange was was the topic okay though? 'Cause she's like, it didn't look like it that it went where she thought it would go. Oh, and Palcom 720 for the flogger to come out. We don't have to go that high.
That's when we're burning Bob accidentally.
Yeah. Satanic Panic goes live November 1st.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. Where's my dashboard so I can actually get into the chat, see what's going on? There we go. No, hide the video preview. We don't want that.
That hasn't been announced, by the way. That Jim said that.
Oh, good, because he put it up earlier in the chat room and I almost said something about it.
What hasn't been announced?
Satanic Panic, November 1st.
Oh, well, I won't talk about it live then. I mean, he's been talking about there's going to be an AP show using the game, so I hope
No, I know,
that's
but
cool.
he posted it like, and I saw it go by and I was like, oh, Jim said it comes out the first. I almost said that.
Eileen wants to point out that Phil pronounced her name
No,
correctly.
You know what? I didn't talk about the Adventure Twitter thing. It's not like I had a billion other things to talk about on the show today. Because I want to do hashtag one tweet adventure.
I did pronounce it correctly, and that's usually me pronouncing everything wrong.
Canost.
Yeah, awesome.
Canost. Chris.
Yeah.
So Canost, not Canost. Okay, Canost. Yeah, look at that. Okay.
Yeah, that rarely happens to me. I almost always see people.
Kevin's like, I will listen because I missed over half the show. I apparently are.
Yeah, don't worry. We recorded it for you.
What's with the crowns? Is that like moderator stuff or something?
No, the crowns are apparently it's a Twitch Prime account. If you have Amazon Prime, you get Twitch Prime for free.
Oh, neat.
Oh, I have.
So a
I
bunch
have
of us
that.
at the beginning of the chat jumped into Amazon Prime and linked our accounts.
Oh, I can
so
do
we
that.
get the
I could
crowns.
do that too.
Yeah, I have that.
I didn't even know they were together.
Yep.
I've been meaning to watch.
Yeah, Amazon
something on
bought
Amazon
Twitch
Prime.
for like a bazillion jillion dollars.
What's that?
Amazon bought Twitch for like a bazillion jillion dollars.
Yeah, that's why not. I mean, when you make Amazon money, why not?
Yeah.
Let's spend that. What else do we got going on? Kevin, thanks again for the spoon, man. That is
Absolutely.
that's amazing. I am actually hiding it in my bag. Like I'm taking it to work with me.
Nice.
Ange said, to clarify, she thought the episode was good, just went a little broader and designery than she expected it to. But good episode.
That's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Designery is kind of a thing.
And yeah, I got PK Sullivan on my side about PB&J not being a thing. Peanut butter and chocolate, baby. Yeah.
Incorrect.
I'm gonna give PK a pass because PK turned me on to Chicago Mix popcorn and
I like Weregator's comment. It's like two different shows: Chat Room Live and then the actual show the next day.
yeah.
That's pretty funny. Oh,
Well, that's good. I mean, I like that people are
I need to link that too. So many people showed up tonight. 18 so far, still here. Were there more people?
It was like 22 plus at one point. So
there we go.
I can't wait till we get to 50. That'll make me really happy.
That'd be crazy.
I don't know how I'm going to manage it.
Yeah, we may have to bring on somebody else to help.
Oh man. So, what are we talking about? Ask us anything. That's what we usually
Ange
do.
said also the comment from Hamlet's Hit Points about Gygax being annoyed at the people wanting more story in his game.
Yeah, I'm actually not surprised at that. I mean, you gotta go back to those wargaming roots. Like,
Yeah, I'm reading about some of that stuff right now. It's kind of interesting.
they were trying to do a specific thing, and then it kind of
What?
took on a life of its own. What's up?
Well, of course we're interested, Matt. He said, I don't know if you guys are in. This is Matt Morrow, the artist extraordinaire. He's doing the covers for a module series.
Of course,
and
Matt, you should
there's
just
a Kickstarter.
Matt, see, you need to tell me about stuff like that so I can talk about it on the show.
Bob, can you snag that and put it into? Can you put it into the Slack channel, and then we can actually pump it through social media?
Damn,
Yeah,
Skippy,
please
we're
do
going to
that.
pimp the shit out of that.
Yeah, we love Matt's stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and it's for 5th edition too.
Copy.
It's almost like I can talk about it on Down with D&D.
Troy said, "Do more episodes from bed with whips." Troy, man, like, okay, like,
Where did he
you
say
all-
that? Oh,
just-
Troy Taylor.
I mean, it's fine. I mean,
You know it's bad. I thought that was Troy Pickelman or Pitchelman
Yeah.
that said that, but no, it's
that's-
Troy Taylor.
I mean, look, if you want more bed episodes with whips, like, we can deliver that. That can happen.
That's right. Gaming MBS has a live show these days too, except it's on Sundays.
Yeah, it's like right when I'm gaming.
Yeah, they are using YouTube for the show.
All right,
I don't know.
It's in Slack now.
What do you folks think? I think I like Twitch.
I'm digging Twitch.
I think I like Twitch. I don't know
Twitch
if
is
I
good.
don't really
I like
want to use
Twitch.
YouTube.
Plus, I'm terrified of YouTube comments, let alone chat. Like,
The show's on YouTube.
no, I know. I purposely never look at YouTube comments.
Yeah.
Ever look at YouTube comments.
Yeah, Sean's hair is generally amazing. It makes me jealous.
Sean's hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Sean P. Kelly. He's a actually pretty good looking guy.
Sean?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a handsome guy.
Yeah.
Sure,
I'm a little
absolutely.
more partial to Brett, but I mean, if we're talking about it, like,
I mean, Brett's like got the rugged
That's
woodsman
what-
thing going on.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I
That's-
know.
I'm-
Like Sean's
the
got that
beard and the.
Sean's got the more clean cut. Like,
I think Brett's got dreamier eyes.
sure. I can
I think
cop to that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would go.
you need to find out in person. When you see Sean in person at Game Hall, you need to like compare it up for me. But I'm pretty sure Brett wins in dreamier eyes.
The government made your hair fall out? How did the government make your hair fall out?
Where was that?
That's a graphic novelty wife. The government has made my hair fall out.
Yikes. Oh, I mean, I guess just pulling it out from.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know if that's true or
No, I
not.
don't
I'm just
either.
saying, like, I would like.
It's all Brett has the voice. Yeah, Kevin said they're both hot, as I can attest to having hung out with them, but they're not nearly as cool as you, Kevin.
No,
Well, of course not.
no, not nearly as.
I will say that, and I love Brett and Sean. I haven't met Sean yet, but I will. Very
Said,
soon.
the MMP Slack has the power of Giphy.
I don't know if I would use the word power.
Has the
It's like an
randomness.
infection.
The power of Giphy compels you.
It's
The
like an
power of
infection. Like,
Oh, man.
sometimes I open up Slack and there's just like all these like graphics moving and like. Plus, Giphy is like kind of drunk in Slack.
Yeah, it is.
Like, you go to
Giphy.
give it like a phrase and like it never comes back with it.
Jason
Oh,
Cordova does have a dreamy voice.
listen, if you want to know why the episode Phil recorded with Jason is long and rambly, it might be because of that voice.
Yeah, it's probably because of that voice.
There's a whole bunch of like Phil kind of fanboying out talking to Jason.
Yeah, I think
two things are related, yeah.
Kevin Lovecraft is saying dub to either to Jason Cordova or to the fact that he's cooler than Brett and Sean.
Well, I mean, yes. It's not a power, Senda. It's like an infection.
Man, I am so sad, Kevin, that we didn't play on Wednesday. I mean, I'm glad I went and saw PMJ. It was transformative for me once again. That was a better show than the first show.
Oh man, it was.
But I missed palling around with my bard buddy. That's all.
But that wow, what was that song? The one with the girl in white did. Take Me to Church. That that song was.
It wasn't the best song for me, but that's because I'm a huge Ella Fitzgerald fan.
Oh,
and
there was some great.
the two different tunes. The Biggie one, but the one before that even that the girl that sang Give It Away Now.
Yeah.
I can't remember what tune it was. I think it was I thought it was a Lady Gaga tune. Maybe it wasn't. Whatever it was, man, she sang that tune, and
That
I'm
PMG
like, it's
PMJ take me to church
Fitzgerald
thing. That
in front
was.
of
I'm trying to think of who the young lady who sang that.
I don't know about any
What are we
of that.
talking
All I
about?
know is when you talk
Tom?
PMJ, you gotta.
Oh,
you
Morgan James was her
Yeah,
name.
Morgan James is
Oh
her name.
man,
her voice is like silk smooth.
she.
Just give me Haley Reinhart.
Oh, I love Haley.
I like
But
Haley too.
this rendition, I mean this it came really close. PMJ was really good. I will never pass on them. Like if they come back through Buffalo again, I wouldn't even think twice.
I wish I would have known. I didn't even know that they were going to be here. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's so good.
You know what happened?
So
the
for
tickets
those-
went on sale
you
when
know,
we were at Gen
There
Con.
might be people who don't know who Postmodern Jukebox is. So Postmodern Jukebox is Scott Bradley's band. Scott Bradley's from New York City. About 4 years ago, he started, maybe 3.5 years ago, he started doing covers of tunes that are popular in styles from days past. So like 20s New Orleans Hot 9, Hot 7 type jazz, 30s big band jazz, 40s like bebop, some Ella Fitzgerald type stuff, get into some of that surfer music in the 50s and the 60s. They do all sorts of different styles, and the music because he's in New York City, there's a huge talent pool of musicians there, and all of his friends and people that he knows, he just kind of brings them in, and he's been able to bring in people that were like on American Idol too to sing songs. So and sometimes now they tour on these tours. They usually take about 6 singers with them and a band, and they do all this music, and it's wonderful and brilliant and amazing. You can see all of their stuff, and I mean, you can get their music on Amazon Music, especially if you have Amazon Prime. Like, I've listened to their albums, but the YouTube videos where they're doing the stuff live is just 1,000 times better.
Yeah, it's just so good.
Just go to YouTube, listen to the stuff there. If you can ever catch them live, go catch them live if that's the kind of music that you like.
Let me ask you a question. Do you remember the first song that you found that when you discovered PMJ?
I think it was Creep. I mean, like, just start
Haley Reinhart's
Haley
Creep.
Reinhart singing Creep, man.
Oh boy, that's a good one. My first one was Sweet Child of Mine, that was done in that New Orleans jazz.
The dirge.
Oh my!
I think the
God,
first one
it was-
anybody ever played for me was the White Stripes.
Seven Nation Army.
Seven Nation Army is really good.
Also
too.
a Haley Reinhart, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
It's just, they're so good. Like, I mean, that's the kind of music that I wanted to play when I was in college. Like, that's the way I wanted to cover pop tunes like
Oh
that.
God, it's brilliant.
I wanted to write charts like that. I was never really good enough to do it. Like, I was never good enough of an arranger to do
Yeah.
that.
I mean, they're so.
Man, All About the Bass is a good.
Oh, that one's fantastic.
I like their I forget the guy's name, but their rendition of Stacy's Mom.
Oh, that one's always
it's
great.
so funny.
Yeah, when he plays the bass the whole time.
Like
Yeah.
PK Sullivan just kicks Stacy's mom in there. Oh man.
Yep.
Yeah, I could talk about Postmodern Jukebox for another 20 minutes. All I can say is go to their YouTube channel, subscribe to them.
Yeah,
and
just
keep listening.
they're on YouTube. Like, I mean,
Great stuff.
You don't just listen.
They're not hard to find either. They have like 100 videos these days.
Yeah, and if they're coming through your city, and you're going to be there,
You should go see them. As long as you like that kind of jazz. Or
Poor Send
music.
It. They're coming to Denver.
I know she's gonna be in a catacomb.
Yeah,
I saw
she's
it.
being a catacon. I'll play Postmodern Jukebox for you while we're gaming.
I also like Puddles the Clown.
Oh,
His
Puddles the
tunes.
Clown is great.
Yeah. Him and Haley sing a song together, don't
Yes,
they?
they
I
do.
forget
which one it is.
It's a Mad World.
Yeah, I
It's
think
a Mad
so.
World, yeah. Anytime that I forget the name of the tap dancer, whenever she gets a chance.
The tap dancer is excellent.
Yep. They do the her, and I can't remember her name either because I'm bad at names. They sing the Lady Gaga tune where she tap dances.
It's escaping me as well.
Yeah. I thought it was Bad Romance. Maybe not.
Maybe.
Pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Puddles is the only clown I like too. Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
a
kinda
huge
how
fan
that
of
goes.
clowns.
Oh man, my son was like,
We should play a jazz game. We should play a Roaring Twenties game. I actually got a game that I could run.
Gangbusters.
No, it's called it's a Call of Cthulhu game called Moonshiner Madness, and a bunch of it takes place. Some of it takes place in the speakeasy.
I have a Powered by the Apocalypse 20s game.
Power by the Apocalypse 20s game.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
I'm gonna look.
Oh man, Django Reinhardt. We could play. I could play the music and you could play the character like at the same time. That'd be great.
I'm gonna take a quick peek.
One last concert.
That's another way to play. That's
It's like the Blues Brothers.
One last job. The
There you
concert.
go. That's
pretty much.
That's it right there. The Blues Brothers.
Babadooba-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Chris, if I only lost a little more weight, we could do.
Do you realize I used to play that tune like in my
Did you?
bands?
Yeah.
We used to play it.
I would have to be out
Roxanne.
because
Well, I could do the John.
Holler.
We could do the Blues Brothers 2000. I could go John
Good night,
Goodman.
Wayne. Have a
There
good
you go.
evening, man.
Yeah.
Talk to you.
Hey Wayne,
Where is that game? Well, shit, I don't know.
All right.
I have one.
It is 11:10.
Yeah, let's blow out.
Time to go get on out of here. It's Chat Room for Life.
you people
We're
are
gonna
the best.
We're gonna do a shorter show one of these days and actually just talk to you folks for a good long time.
Good luck on that.
Hands
Well,
down.
we'll just
you
wait till
guys
Phil's
rock.
not here.
Oh, then you know what? It'll be the Tuesday that I'm leaving. It's the Tuesday after Catacon.
Yeah.
You guys can have a short show.
Yep. And by short, I mean an hour and 45 minutes instead of 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Carry on.
I warned you. In fact, I tweeted.
What's the next line?
Senda.
Don't stop now. You're in the zone.
Keep going.
I'm not going to keep going. I'm not here to sing.
Yes, you
that's
are.
Senda's job.
Sing the rest of
That's
it.
Senda's job.
You just started. Come on,
Can
man.
I tell you the other day I was like super sad.
That might be the only time you hear Bob sing ever.
The other day I was like super sad and like I mixed the actual Carry On Wayward Son and just kept putting Carry On Phil Vecchio and then just like listen to the rest of the lyrics.
Oh man.
That's turns out to be like really like positive.
Yeah, nice.
All right.
All right.
Ready to
Bye,
blow up?
everybody. Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
You guys rock. We love you.